Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Knights of Last Call. My name is Derek Melinda, and I am joined tonight, by my two esteemed colleagues, Bob and, of course, Mr. Aaron Smith. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. It is a special day, an auspicious day, because we are going to be doing a first look. Now, these are things that we here at Knights of Last Call do, and I've done many of them. And this is where we take a look at a role-playing game that we've had limited or almost no experience with. And typically, this is something that I do by myself. And, we pull up the book and I go through it and try to basically get a gist for what the game is. And it's really more of a, and I'd never call it a review because it's a reaction. How can you say you can review a game?
And a lot of it's just is generated by the patron. Like they'll say, Derek, you need to look at this game. And then you go and let me take a first look at it. Let me just get my feet wet. And then you give your reactions.
Now that being said, there are some standard metrics that I always apply for these first looks. And one of them is I always apply Jared Sorensen's big three questions, which is number one, is this game actually about something? Right? Is this and more importantly, does the game know that? Right? And so in other words, is the game cognizant of the fact that it is trying to achieve a certain goal? If you look at most Powered by the Apocalypse games, you're going to see this list of principles and agendas, and those differ from game to game.
Right.
So if you're playing, say, Avatar Legends, you're going to see that part of what they want you to do in this game is to show a world that is in balance and not in balance, right? In that to show different cultures. That's a part of that game's DNA. Fabula Ultima, very famously, is very discreet with its 8 pillars, and it says if you're not doing it this way, you're not playing our game. You're not playing you're playing a different game. So if number one is, what is our game about? Number two is, okay, you've told us what your game is about. Now, does the game's mechanics support that idea? Now, there's a certain, in process engineering, usually you want to make your system as complicated as it needs to be to achieve your goal, and anything after that is just waste. Mm-hmm. So, certainly there are RPGs that can get really long in the tooth, and you go, I think you hit your goal, but you kept adding in more and more and more stuff. Even well-intentioned RPGs can often end up in this situation because they got to sell books.
Gotta sell books.
So Splat and all this other stuff can ratchet up the complication and complexity of an RPG without actually really adding anything to the system itself, and that could be a problem as well. So the third element then is, if the first is, what is this game about? And the second is, does the game actually let you do that? The third is, okay, if you do that, is the game's reward cycle set up in such a way that you are encouraged, whether in the game or after the game, by doing what the game wants you to do. Like the classic example of this, of course, is a fate point. Mm-hmm. Fate games want you to make your characters have these sort of yin and yang aspects that can be great for your, source of strength for your character and a source of weakness for your character. And the way it achieves that is it says, and when you make it a problem for you, the game rewards you with a fate point. So you're kind of feeling like, okay. And as we always say, what gets rewarded gets repeated.
There we go.
So that's our premise. So tonight we're going to be taking a look at the newly released version 1.2 open beta of Daggerheart. Now I think I speak for all of us here when I say I don't really know much about this game.
I just opened it up.
Okay.
I don't know anything about this game.
So, I obviously, my ears to the,
What I know is Critical Role is with Dragonheart, and they might be playing it.
You just said Dragonheart.
Oh, Daggerheart. Sorry. Dragonbane's on my mind.
Dragonheart.
It's a new crossover hack.
Hype.
Dragonbane plus Daggerheart, Dragonheart.
And they're doing it tonight. I think they're doing their review,
so in a couple hours, I think they are going to run through probably my guess is the intro adventure that comes with the open beta. We'll see what they do. I think that, okay, without even going into it though, we know that obviously the group behind this is Critical Role.
Yep.
And I think they did something with D&D or something.
They did something with D&D. And to be clear, let's actually get a couple of things clear. Because sometimes people assume that because this channel doesn't do, the top 10 best feats in 5e, the top best Warlock cheese builds in 5e. Some people assume that because of that, and because we like games like PBTA and Pathfinder 2, that we hate 5e.
No, we just hate money.
Correct. Right. We just hate money. Whereas I've had a great time in almost every instance that we've played 5e in. Now, that being said, is it my favorite system of all time? No. In fact, there's a reason why when we first played 5e, we played it for about 6 months when it came out in 2014. And we said, let's go back to Pathfinder 1 and other games. That being said, we have often said that. So that's the first thing to understand. We don't hate 5e. Second thing is we don't hate Critical Role, and especially we don't hate Matt Mercer.
Oh, Matt Mercer's great.
I think Matt Mercer has a respect of all of us.
He legit.
Yeah.
I mean, not even just to show stuff, but like he's done plenty of like interviews about like game design, role playing, and also just more like sentimental things and like, you know, being in the industry that he's in, like voice acting, all this stuff. And it's just like genuine, just seems like a very like good dude.
He seems like a genuinely nice guy.
I mean, I guess you never know unless you know.
You never know unless you know, right? I mean, until the situation gets
He seems very genuine.
Yeah, and quite frankly, passionate about the game.
Very passionate.
You know, and I think there's a degree of authenticity there, which is that, you know, I gotta, you know, I have to applaud them for that. Yes, of course, their cast is a bunch of talented, mostly beautiful looking, you know, voice actors.
And you get us.
But but that was just their group.
That was their group. Yeah.
You know, that they were playing, and then they, you know, they saw an opportunity to start showing it. And so again,
you know, the very early like the videos of them in their kitchen playing.
Yeah.
It was either Pathfinder.
It was Pathfinder 1.
Yeah, something with a binder. So yeah, it could have been Pathfinder. It's awesome because it looks like every other group, right? And it's funny too because like when you see Mercer, right, and this could just be him being very talented or whatever, but like nowadays, like it feels like you got all this glam and all this stuff going on in the set. Like it almost feels like you could see him kind of be like, okay, yeah, can we start now? Can I get back to playing the game? I just want to play the game, right? Like when he's like when they're shooting, it really feels like he's just trying to like play the game,
right?
And I appreciate that, right? Yeah. Like, you know, someone who like loves the game.
He takes it very seriously. So
yeah,
I definitely respect him as a sort of as a DM, and I think he does a great job of it. And there's no doubt that he does. You know, he knows his shit. You know,
100%. Yeah.
And
he's obviously more on like the narrative beat side of things than my personal preference, but you know, that being said, still has plenty of great advice for game masters. And just because I have a different style doesn't mean I don't appreciate what he's bringing to the table.
So with that being said, we know, and we've said many times when, you know, we've tried Critical Role or we've looked at Critical Role, we've said, boy, oh no, Bob.
Canes.
Oh, is that what it is?
No, it's
not. You're just persistent.
It's my typical spring cough. You get a nice spring cough.
Your typical redhead, weak genetics cough.
Spring and fall cough. That's what I get.
So 8 months of the year. Got it.
6 months for sure.
6 months minimum.
Well, then he gets the summer cough.
So we've often said that in a way, D&D is like, it's like holding them back.
Oh yeah, because what they want to do.
For what they want to do, and not only what they want to do, but what they're capable of doing. Right. And we've said a million times, like, can you imagine them like playing PBTA game?
That's what I thought they should be playing.
And coming up and bouncing ideas off of each other, and what a partial success would look like for them and their group. I mean, with 100%. Matt Mercer's ability, but not just Matt Mercer's ability, but his players' abilities too, who are obviously very talented.
It'd be pretty sweet.
It would be awesome, and you'd really get to see their creativity cranked to 100. And so I've often felt like, okay, so that being said, they created a game.
Yep.
And there's no doubt that their influences are going to be here. So without going into it, what are your thoughts about what you think that this game will be like?
Well, I assume just because they are very narrative and theater with the way that the show is, and I assume the game will enforce that. I assume that there'll be more, I want to say expedition, but non-combat related skills or events or things that will trigger because of stuff that's happening through the narrative. And then combat, I'm sure, will be there because it's still usually a role-playing game.
There's still a lot of combat in Critical Role games, I believe.
Yeah. I just feel like it's going to be, if they're smart, again, I haven't read this, they'll lean into their strong suits, which is their narrative and their ability to be creative, I think, outside of combat, which is where I always felt entertained watching them. So
yeah. So, Smith, you think there's going to be like the sort of narrative meta currencies or things like that?
Yeah, I mean,
because some people are very
given what we know of the other game that just came out with,
Candela,
and everything we just talked about, I'm expecting something that plays in like the Blades in the Dark or PBTA realm. So I would expect to see conditional success or success windows, right? Partial hits, that sort of thing. Some sort of ability to go, no, GM, fuck you. This happens instead, right? You know, some sort of, I don't know, token, point, fate, hope system.
Yeah.
Let's see. I believe Daggerheart, if I recall, was supposed to be more of like the D&D sweetheart version of game versus the other thing that they made.
And that's kind of the subtext of this tonight's stream. Something that I think I want you all at home and us here sort of keep in mind is there's this big talk, right? Which is this game could be the D&D killer, which people have been saying for a long time.
Sure.
And of course, D&D has a new edition coming out, which could be very good for them or very bad for them, depending on what direction they go. But you've got people at the MCDM RPG, and they're saying that. And then we have this game. Now, we had a chance to play the MCDM RPG, and of course, it's undergoing playtesting, but it was very much more action-focused. It was very much more like, you know, cool combat and moves and kind of anime superpower type of way.
No, actually, I think we were surprised at how kind of weak it was in terms of the narrative because it didn't have things like gradient successes.
Correct.
Which is something that you and I kind of like, well, that's the baseline nowadays.
We were expecting that. And so my thought process here is really, if this is supposed to be the D&D killer. Now, to be clear, we've said this before too. A lot of people who are at home right now in the last week playing 5th edition D&D, they're playing the wrong games because they want to. They're like, I have to fudge because my character just died. You know, one of my PCs just died randomly in the middle of a story arc.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, you should be playing Fabula Ultima.
Yeah.
Right, where you can surrender or sacrifice. You, the player, get to choose what happens when your character, quote unquote, gets taken out. And it's like they're stuck in this. So there's a part of me that thinks that a lot of people, this game, if it goes the direction that we think it will, it could be a very nice thing for them. It remains to be seen, though, if people can get over that. You know, like some people have such a knee-jerk reaction to those Blades in the Dark style mechanics, those sort of, the kind of namby-pamby, fate stuff that people feel like it becomes not a real game.
I think that's actually skipping ahead a bit. I mean, if we're talking about like, I don't know, converting the 5e audience or whatever, right? I assume that's the underlying question.
Of course, yes, that is the underlying question.
Do the 5e critter fans switch over to Daggerheart, right?
Right.
Like that's probably the question everyone wants to know. I don't even think they think that far to think about the mechanics of Blades in the Dark and how that feels, right? Hell, majority of them probably don't know it, right? I don't know if D&D is dying anytime soon, right? Like maybe I'm just jaded from the whole fucking, every time a new game came out, it was going to be the WoW killer, right?
Right.
And WoW's still around somehow after all this time, still the biggest.
WoW's reboot of its old game is
still more popular than most second MMO,
yeah,
right?
most MMOs, right?
So like what's going to ultimately kill Dungeons and Dragons? Probably Dungeons and Dragons, right? It's going to be WotC. Right?
That's a pretty good point.
Well, think about it. The only real damage that has been done to that company has been through WotC and Hasbro. It hasn't been anyone else.
Yeah.
Right. And certainly people have tried. Right. Like will the MCDM RPG, have a big following and be out there? Yeah, of course. Is it going to be like a wave in the D&D pool? No, it's going to be a drop in that ocean. Right. I think this, just based on, some numbers and popularity and size of fan base, pulling out my ass, I think this would be more popular than MCDM RPG.
Yeah. I mean, it's got that huge built-in audience, right?
Of course. Will it be disruptive to D&D? I don't know, because my suspicion is that a lot of people who watch Critical Role at this point watch it for like entertainment.
Right.
And the game system almost doesn't matter.
Yeah, very much so.
So I don't know how many people watch Critical Role and then go, I want to go have a D&D campaign like that. Well, I know that zero isn't. I number isn't zero.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of people, which is why the Matt Mercer effect comes in, because then they start playing D&D and then they go, wow, this isn't producing the outcomes that I'm used to seeing on Critical Role.
It's not zero, but is it substantial?
I don't know. That's a great question.
Right, and I don't know.
Well, we're gonna answer that because we're gonna dive into it real quick. I do want to say thank you, John. I appreciate it, John. Johnny B, shout out my haircut.
Oh,
didn't say anything about my haircut.
No, he did not. All right.
I thought you were just going Matt Mercer today.
No. So
I grew up my hair because in case we ever want to turn this into a 5e stream, I'd be ready to go.
So rather surprisingly, the playtest document for 1.2. Now we're not going to go through everything here. We're not going to literally.
I mean, it's a lot of pages.
It's a lot of pages. I
was surprised.
I was expecting like 50 pages.
Yeah, seriously. I was like, is this going to be another 17-page Word document that Colville shit out? But
this is a fully functioning 300+ page book, supposedly. So
this is like what I would expect for a playtest because it's basically laid out well and formatted, but like there's no art or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
It's designed to be a working document, but a readable one.
Right. So here we go. Introduction here on page. If you're at home and you're following along, we're on page 7. Daggerheart is a collaborative role-playing game set in a high fantasy world. Now, again, remember, this is good. These are the kind of words and lyrics. It's telling us what this game is and what this game is about. It's a high fantasy world. Notice, it's not saying it's a good for your sword and sorcery game.
Yeah.
It's a high fantasy world.
Well, my hope, and I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. This is just my jadedness kicking in.
Yep.
You see so many of these words thrown around, so many of these buzzwords, right? My hope is that these guys actually know what high fantasy is and are using it correctly. Because if this description is accurate, then that's great. I'm not saying like gay high fantasy. I'm saying like if they're accurately describing what their game is, then that's awesome.
Well, that's why the first question is this game about something? And the second game is the game actually about that thing? Right.
So it's going to be interesting to see if they're using the words correctly.
A place of incredible magic and perilous adventure.
Okay.
During a campaign, you may find yourself rubbing elbows with nobles in an attempt to stop an assassination plot, diving deep into an ancient dungeon to keep a powerful creature from escaping and unleashing its power, sailing across a vast ocean to face off against a terrifying sea monster, or protecting a precious relic from falling into the hands of a dangerous enemy. No matter the adventure your party chooses to embark upon, Daggerheart is designed to provide the tools to tell a story that is both heartfelt and epic. So there is some wording in there that I think is a little bit different. Now we're going to skip the what is a tabletop role-playing game. And then we'll get to what kind of a role-playing game is Daggerheart? That's a great question.
Yeah, I do like that they had that question.
Yes, I actually completely agree with you. Daggerheart is now let's contrast this, right? MCDM was a cinematic, tactical, heroic.
I don't think was it tactical? Or are we confused that with PF2? I know it was cinematic.
It was cinematic. It was tactical. It was heroic.
Fantasy, right?
Fantasy.
Yeah.
That is what MCDM was.
Yeah.
So Daggerheart is a heroic, narrative-focused experience, but with combat as a prominent aspect of play.
Not necessarily tactical, though.
Not necessarily. Facilitating emotionally engaging, player-driven campaigns that are punctuated by exciting battles and harrowing challenges. The game takes a more rules-light approach in its design. 300 some pages.
Rules-light, eh? Okay.
Encouraging players and GMs to focus on the story they're telling rather than the complexity of the mechanics. It asks them to act in good faith with one another. Well, there you lost everybody right there. With one another to tell the best story you can.
Mercer. Good try.
And looks to provide structure when it's unclear how things might resolve within that story. The system has a free-flowing approach to combat to avoid stopping down the game into rounds.
Oh, Hackmaster?
Yeah, somehow I doubt that they're going to go Hackmaster.
I think they went the other way.
And it doesn't rely on a grid-based movement for the maps and minis.
So not tactical combat.
Not tactical combat.
So are they thinking, I don't know, does that mean theater of the mind?
It could mean theater of the mind.
Or do you think it means zones?
Well, but here's what I think. It's
zones, people like their minis.
It could be zones because it doesn't say, it says doesn't rely on grid-based movement for the maps and minis.
Okay, so there are minis.
So there's this, well, I think Bob might be right. I think it might be minis. It might be
zone. I could see zones.
They might use
zones kind of like
I think it's index card.
Hotness.
Is it index card? People in chat will let me know if I'm wrong. Index card RPG uses because it's an index card, and so like it uses an index card as its ruler. So like the short side of an index card is like short range, and then like if the index card is the long side, that's long range. So
okay,
and I'm just saying it could just be relative, measurement. Because they're not going to get rid of their min. Photo Bunny says yes, that is index card RPG. Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched a lot of Critical Role, but I do seem to recall
they have a lot of dioramas and stuff.
Yeah. Mercer loves his sets.
Yeah, he loves his sets.
The Vecna fight had a pretty ridiculous looking one.
Oh yeah, that was sweet.
It was sweet.
That Vecna fight looked amazing. I mean, that was like had to be like a custom mini that they had like
100%.
made just for that. You know, that was
You
awesome.
can do that when you're making that kind of.
Yeah, that's what I would do. That's
100% is what
the
I would
only
do.
reason I want to be that successful is so that I could pay somebody to build me that kind of.
You know, I think that's why we like Matt Mercer, is because Matt Mercer reminds us of like how we'd be, where it's like, yeah, this is all great. Honestly, I just really wanted to get like custom minis that looked shit hot.
Right, exactly.
Because you know they got like Hero Forge or some shit on like speed now, right?
Oh,
You know?
Well,
they
Dwarven
probably have
Forge,
their own
Wormwood.
private
Oh yeah, 100%.
graphics. Anyways,
Yeah.
that is all purposeful in creating a game that utilizes the kind of terrain and map building that miniature-based games are known for, while making Daggerheart streamlined, approachable, and focused on delivering a great narrative experience to the table. So, what I'm hearing from this is my assessment, is we are talking about a heroic fantasy game that is more focused on the narrative
And emotion.
and emotion.
They drop the word emotion a lot.
At least twice, emotionally engaging, player-driven. So a lot of this sounds like your typical PBTA stuff.
Yep.
But then it does say, with combat as an exciting aspect of play with minis and maps.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you're taking your traditional narrative game tropes and being like, and then let's add combat to it.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see if they do a good job with that.
Yes.
You know, because I have like a similar kind of experience with this. It doesn't end well, right? And that would be like L5R for me. L5R, while not mechanically simple in any way, I would definitely describe as like, you know, emotional and like, you know, driven, right? Like, and you have these intense narratives. I mean, Bob, I don't need to tell you,
dude.
like
L5R is legit.
you're like, I gotta take a break from this, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's a game that we can't play every week, right? Even though we all love it, right? Derek and I will literally have like dinner, and be like, just randomly, L5R is amazing. Yeah. Really glad we're not playing it this week. Me too. You know, but like, one of the things that was difficult for me is like, you're super into this mindset of Bushido, right? Being a samurai. And like, for me, it's something I have to constantly think about, right? Because I'm always weighing my honor and my duty and all that crap, right? And if you're not, or you're even playing L5R, right? But then you get into combat, and it's like all the problems that Derek has with normal F20 combat, but just like really amplified, because it's so jarring for me personally, where I'm going from this really deep narrative emotional viewpoint to dun, 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 and like Derek's like drawing the zones out, and we're moving minis, and I'm like, wait, what the hell am I doing? Like, did I go back to Dungeons and Dragons? Like,
Yeah, so let me give you a great contrast to that. Okay, Avatar Legends. The basic strike technique, which is available to everybody. It's a basic technique. So if somebody chooses to advance an attack, you can strike, and you know, whatever that means, earth bend, fire bend, whatever. And it basically says your target takes 2 fatigue, so damage, or a condition. It's all their choice.
Yep.
Or their balance shifts.
Right.
So you can see where combat has this sort of emotional narrative component in Avatar Legends. But there are many games that, like you said, it's like, oh, we're all just talking and we're role playing and we're everything, and then the combat starts and we all stop role playing, and it's move our minis mode and think about attack bonuses.
And in fact, I think I bring this
it feels very jarring
every time we talk about Avatar. One of the things I love in Avatar is it's not fight until everyone runs out of hit points.
Right. You do one round,
and then you break apart, and then you're back in the standard PBTA narrative, and you might re-engage and have another round of combat. But it isn't just like fight until Derek stops calling for initiative, right?
Yeah.
Like you know, it's much more organic, which is not only great because that's how the show works, but like that plus the actual mechanics, as you brought up, which those guys did such an incredible job, because I can't say enough good things about it, because like,
believe it or not, this is about Daggerheart, but yes.
but Daggerheart is going up against games like this, in my opinion.
I agree, because it's not like Avatar didn't do whatever $12 million or whatever on Kickstarter.
Avatar crushed it,
right?
And outside of the financial success, it changed the tech for the better. In fact, you know, one of our issues with Root, it's not that we're many, we very much enjoyed Root, but one of the issue is like, oh, this is clearly dated when compared to Avatar.
Right. I feel like they learned more from their lessons.
They learned a ton from it. And like, Avatar is so great. Every aspect of Avatar is to your point about the 3 questions. Everything you do in Avatar is always driving you back to that conversation of balance. Whether you're in combat, whether you're talking to someone, you're engaging with people, like, it's constantly reminding you that, hey, this is about the balance. It's not about firebending. It's not about punching dudes. It's about, what do you believe in? What do you stand for?
And that we will judge very harshly on Daggerheart, because they did say, and I quote again, it is a narrative focused experience facilitating emotionally engaging player-driven campaigns, albeit punctuated by exciting combat. And in that regard, Avatar is probably the best litmus test.
Yes.
Because that is an emotionally engaged, player-driven roller coaster punctuated by exciting combat.
And I want to be clear, I'm not some like hipster who just likes Avatar for the emotional aspects. I know Bob doesn't even know what the beach episode is, but don't get me wrong, I also love Avatar because they throw down.
Yeah, they throw down.
It's exciting.
So speaking of that, continuing on, those who prefer a highly strategic, rules-heavy experience with more of a heritage from war games may find that Daggerheart does not have all of the crunchy bits that they're used to.
Wow, they just threw all D20 under the bus. Like not even PF2, which was the obvious target, but also 5e because that's the game that actually came from wargaming.
Those who come from very rules-light gameplay may find some mechanics engage in areas where they're used to a more free-form approach. That's okay. You should always play the types of games that make you and your table happy.
Great advice.
Yeah, that is great advice. Also, it's I love it when a game goes, it's not for you.
Yeah. Don't play it.
You know what? We're not trying to please everyone here.
Right.
I mean, that to me is a big...
I mean, honestly, more nuts than all of your mainline publishers.
Correct. That said, if you're looking to tell heroic fantasy stories with a modern approach to mechanics that focus on both the epic battles and the emotional narrative of the characters who fight in them, you've come to the right place.
Okay. Let's see if they deliver.
Daggerheart utilizes, this already excites me, an asymmetrical design. That means that it plays very differently for the GM than it does for the players. That is... Obviously, those who've watched the show know my ideal situation is I never have to roll the dice ever. Sure. One of the reasons I love PBTA is because I never have to,
Ironic, because 3rd edition probably is the most symmetrical game I can think of.
Right.
Because literally everyone uses the same rules.
Correct.
And you love 3rd edition.
Yes, but that's nostalgia.
Okay.
Ask me when I want to bust out 3rd edition as a campaign.
I mean... Isn't there always a part of you that kind of always wants to bust it out?
Yes, there's also a part of me that always wants to go back to like my first girlfriend, but that part very quickly gets dismissed.
3rd edition did you better than your first girlfriend.
That's true. Many TTRPGs have some asymmetry, with players, for example, controlling one PC while the GM plays everyone else. But Daggerheart's asymmetry goes deeper. Players roll the 2d12. Okay, they're calling them duality dice.
The duality.
That is the one thing I knew about Daggerheart, that they use 2d12.
Duality.
Players roll the 2d12 duality dice for their PC's standard actions, including their attacks. At the same time, the GM makes moves with, that's some PBTA language right there. The GM makes moves without rolling for most actions, but rolls a d20 when making attacks for adversaries.
Interesting.
Okay.
Why?
I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
I mean, there's asymmetry, but anyways. All right.
Clearly they thought about this because they called it out.
All right. So each PC, okay, here we go. Each PC gains hope when they roll with hope.
Isn't it like it's like a black dice and a white dice?
Yeah, the duality dice.
Okay.
One is
I'm trying to remember from the
one
time
is
ago.
Fear.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I guess the way they do partial successes is which one hits or misses.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll figure it out.
Each PC gains hope, which is capitalized. So I'm assuming that's some sort of resource when they roll with hope. While the GM gains fear, another capitalized F, when any PC rolls with fear. So I'm immediately thinking here of momentum and threat from 2d20.
Descent.
Yeah. But I'm thinking like from 2d20, from Star Trek, from Dune, where the players have this momentum resource, this determination resource that builds up when they roll certain things. But then the GM also has this resource called threat. PCs and adversaries both have a mechanic called experiences, but they are used in different ways at different times. This asymmetrical design is intended to help all participants more effectively contribute to creating a memorable experience at the table. Okay, so that's pretty interesting. All right, touchstones, very important here. We'll quickly go through this. TTRPGs that they are noted by 13th Age, Apocalypse Keys, that's very cool, Apocalypse World, Blaze of the Dark, City of Mist, Cortex Prime, Cypher System, Dishonored, Dungeons & Dragons, Flee Mortals.
Like how Flee Mortals gets its own listing as an RPG, even though it's a supplement.
It's a supplement for an RPG.
It's a good book, though.
It's a great book.
For the Queen, Genesis, Lady Blackbird. Man, John, it's like the fourth time John Harper's on here.
Mark
Masks,
will be happy.
A New Generation, Pathfinder, Shadowrun, The Quiet Year, Wild Sea, and Slugmaster. So this is quite the list. I mean, we here on this channel have covered a lot of these.
See, a lot of these are in my March Madness bracket.
Yeah, a lot of these.
What's not on the list?
That's a great question.
Right? Like, is this list useful?
I mean, that's a great
I mean,
question.
I don't see Dragonbane, so is this game even good?
So books. A Song of Ice and Fire series.
Okay.
Nice. A Wizard of Earth series.
There we go.
Which is like
you don't
my-
see that one too often.
No, you do not. And that's like my
I don't even know what
favorite-
that is.
Exactly. That's all you need to know. It's
Yeah.
my favorite fantasy series of all time.
Yeah.
And Bow doesn't know about it. I do not know Sabriel,
I don't know Sabriel.
The Wheel of Time,
That's pretty good.
and The Lord of the Rings.
I've heard about that one.
So I mean, if,
Something
if
about
your-
like
if
jewelry.
your game is about heroic high fantasy,
Yeah.
those are not maybe not Song of Ice and Fire, but Wizard of Earth, Wheel of Time, and Lord of the Rings are definitely that. Movie and television: The Dragon Prince, The Lord of the Rings, The Witcher,
Okay.
The Legend of Bach. All right,
Little self-
right, that's a little-
self-promotion.
Which was a great show.
The Legends of Bach Machina. And then video games, we have Borderlands, Dragon Age, Inquisition, Outriders, and the entire Elder Scrolls series.
All right, well, I guess I'm in.
That's a pretty good touchstone here. And they do have some special shout outs where they talk about the Genesis, and this will probably tell me a lot here. Yeah, okay. So the Genesis system was a major inspiration for the 2-axis results of the duality dice.
Which one's Genesis again?
So Genesis is the one that used to be Warhammer Fantasy 3rd Edition with all the weird dice.
Oh, right. Because I
And then
remember
they made it
I had
generic.
like the green and red dice, like rage dice and
Yeah.
I don't know,
Right.
discipline
Well,
dice or
when
something.
it became Genesis, they had a more generic die, and then in the Star Wars game, you had the Force die.
Right.
And basically, there was this idea of like doing it with the light side or doing it with the dark side. Now, of course, Fantasy Flight Genesis system achieved this by having fucking bucket loads of different dice.
Right.
Which is great and all, and I love proprietary dice. You know me.
Need
but
to see more of
but
them.
I understand that is a big no-no for a lot of people, and it's a big turnoff. But one thing I really like is when dice rolls can do a lot of heavy lifting, right?
Yes.
And you can get a lot of results out of one set of dice rolls.
Not just math.
Not just a number generator,
Yeah.
right? So that's where this fear and hope concept comes in. Cypher Systems GM intrusions pave the way for spending fear to interrupt a scene. So this is very similar to Threat. They could have put this here, but Threat from 2D20, which I did not mention as a thing, but GM intrusions are basically a resource the GM has in Cypher System games, just like Threat. So like, for example, if we're playing Dune 2D20 and I had a lot of threat built up, when you guys are going into an area, I could be like, I'm going to spend my threat and say that one of these people is secretly a Harkonnen agent who is, here to, assassinate you or undermine you, Among many other things, D&D's advantage and disadvantage system was particularly inspirational.
Yes,
we
good.
We love
One
advantage.
of the best mechanics ever made.
Yep, we love advantage and disadvantage. 13th Age's backgrounds heavily inspire the experience mechanic. And of course, backgrounds are a free-form way of handling skills.
Yeah.
And instead of focusing on, I have acrobatics, I have athletics, it's more like, hey, my character I was an Imperial assassin. So yeah, I'm probably pretty good at fighting. I'm probably pretty good at sneaking.
I kind of like backgrounds in 13th Age. Not my favorite, but it was cool.
Yeah. Blades of the Dark and Apocalypse World helped shape the narrative game flow, and their playbooks inspired a lot of the character sheet development.
So the game.
Yeah, so a lot of the game. The Wild Sea, which is a game we just covered recently on this channel. Phenomenal Reaches section provide the chassis for the regions section of this book. So again, Wild Sea has a lot of really cool mechanics, and one of them is about its different regions and places you can go in the Wild Sea. Enemy types and ways of managing minions are informed by, again, enemy types, aka roles.
Yes, apparently this was the big topic on the Discord today.
We were talking about that on the Patreon Discord. Ways of managing minions are from 4th edition, and the monster design of Flea Mortals, which originally we were kind of like, why is that in there? But we admit, Flea Mortals did. They improved. They
actually improved on
improved
the 40
on 4th
minion rules.
They did.
So
the Quiet Year, which I had an opportunity, I've played many times, but I had an opportunity to play it with some of the patrons last year at Gen Con. We had a Quiet Year
How do you
game.
become a patron?
How do you become a patron? Link below, patreon.com/nicelast Bob, if you want to support this channel. We also have 2 tip goals, which we just made up at the last minute because we didn't know what the hell to talk about.
And the internet was being a little.
And the internet was, we
being a little
weren't
sketch.
even sure if we were going to be able to go live today because our internet was literally out at the studio. But
selling out. Yeah.
if you do want to support us, you can throw us a super chat using the YouTube interface, or you can find a link below, or you can type !tip, and that'll bring up our stream elements that goes through the PayPal.
Yeah,
But-
let us know if we should go into a hard 5e/Daggerheart only channel, where not only do we have live plays of these games, but we also kind of shadow and comment on kind of like Science Theater. You guys watch the show? But the actual Critical Role stream. So we'll just make the channel entirely about that.
All right, so at the heart of the game, we have a conversation.
Get it, Heart?
Yes, I get it. And again,
I mean, I like their symbol, their dagger that's shaped with the blood.
We roll
stream coming.
dice.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
this is
cool.
this is PBTA 101, right? It's a conversation, and we roll dice to see what happens next. It literally says that. Dice generally come in 2 different categories: your duality dice and your damage dice. Okay, so they're separate, and they're both DD. That's not completely confusing.
Jesus.
Your 2d12 are different colors, one representing hope and the other represent fear, and your damage dice correspond to the weapon or spell. Anytime you're making a roll to see whether you succeed or fail at something, you're going to roll your duality dice and take the sum, I remember that's 2d12, of their results, plus any modifiers that apply to that action. If the total, now the interesting thing to note about 2d12 is obviously it goes from 2 to 24.
Right.
So it has a higher range than a d20.
Right.
Because d20 can only go to 20.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing to note is that the average of 2d12 is a 13, whereas the average of a d20 is 10.5.
Right.
But a 2d12 is also bell curved. It's not a linear distribution.
Right.
So in a D20, you're as likely to roll a 2
That's right.
as you are to roll a 10, as you are to roll an 18. But a 2D12, you're going to roll a lot of 11, 12, 13, 14, 15s. Very few 24s, very few 2s.
I wonder if that was their way of getting around missing sucks.
Maybe. The other thing that's interesting is when we know the GM rolls a D20. Now, I'm starting to think why they might have done that, because the player needs to know whether they rolled with fear or whether they roll with hope, right? Their roll is more complicated. It's more important. The GM presumably doesn't need to know that.
Right.
So why make it an extra step? And maybe it makes the GM's rolls lower and more variable.
Maybe.
Because, I mean, I don't care
I
if I
also
miss
wonder
as a
why
GM.
they would have gone with like 2d12s instead of like 2d10.
Well, because the 2d12 is awesome.
D12.
Well, yeah, d12s are awesome, but like if they're trying to keep it relatable to the GM,
Yeah, that's
which they may not be.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Maybe they want a higher number range.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Hero's got a hero.
If you get equal to or higher the DC, it's a success. If it's lower, it's a failure.
So I like that because that means there's a DC.
Yep, it's a DC.
It's not just like 7.
Oh, it's not just PBTA.
Or,
Yeah.
whatever the equivalent of 2d12 would be.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it still uses a DC-based system.
Yeah.
If it's lower, it's a failure. Then you also tell the GM whether your hope die or your fear die rolled higher.
Right.
And the situation around you changes based on that result. So if you succeed, so presumably you could succeed with hope, you could succeed with fear, you could fail with hope, and you could fail with fear. So my guess is that's how you're going to get your gradations of success.
Yep. There's probably a crit in there. Probably if they match. Or
Now,
something.
again, I like this. This is because, again, obviously you have to add 2 numbers, the D12s.
Yeah.
But D12 is low enough. It's not a D20.
Right.
2D20 is actually kind of hard to add. 2D12 is very manageable for most people to add. And then you're just seeing which number is higher, right? Comparison. So it's very easy, I think, to do that quick comparison. Now, we'll see how many modifiers get added to this, and then you make sessions and you get together and they're open-ended and we have multiple things and you can't win or you
There's
can't
no
lose.
winning and losing.
Yeah, in a traditional sense. So we can go through this.
The most important.
The most
rule.
important rule is to make the game your own. Of course, all the standard stuff that comes with RPGs this day. Player principles.
There we go. We got some.
So this is a A+ for me.
All right. Well, let's see what they got.
Be a fan of your character and their journey.
Okay.
Find out ways to show off what your character does best and what they do worse. Push your character story forward and always strive to make interesting choices. Sounds like advice that we would give on this channel.
Yep. Also, be a fan. Is literally from PBTA.
Learn more about who they are through play.
I like that. Don't show up with your 10-page background story.
Right. Draw maps, leave blanks.
Yeah. And, that speaks to I don't know if they dropped the cinematic line because it's hard to keep all these straight nowadays.
Sure.
But that does actually speak, to cinema, right? Show, don't tell. Like.
Right. Don't tell me that your character is sullen and morose. Show me through play. Spotlight your allies. Look for opportunities to make, to call out your people, make them look cool. There you go, Smith. Play to find out what happens. Literally taken from the book.
There you go.
Everything you do should flow from the fiction. What's the fiction? I hate the word the fiction.
Yeah, what is with
people because people hate indie narrative RPGs. But what they don't realize is that they want indie narrative stories, and then they're playing this super trad war sim,
right?
And wondering why it fucking goes sideways.
And now they're like, I gotta fix this game.
Then they have to go fix the game and make a million hacks or
people
download a million
seriously
things.
get hung up on the fiction.
Or they fudge to shit.
Yeah. But
anyways,
they get hung up on like the literal word.
Yeah, I know.
Fiction.
I know. It's terrible. Now, to be fair, there was someone who didn't have the fiction. Well, the fiction is the simulated fictional reality that we are transposing.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily like some GM plan for what the arc of the story is. That's different. That's not the fiction.
It's literally a way of saying the reality that it isn't real.
Roll the dice, let the results lead you into what happens next. If you embrace complications with the same vigor that you celebrate victories, which, again, I love. Address the characters and address the players. This is a classic PBTA reference. Hold on gently. Improvisational storytelling isn't always perfect. That's okay. Hold on gently to the fiction, enough that you don't lose the pieces that matter, but not so tightly that the narrative has no room to breathe. Yep. Build a world together. So collaborative world building. Yeah. So all good stuff.
I like these.
All right, so we got the Mortal Realm. This is like where you can build your game. I'm not worried about this too much here. Hallows
above, the circles below.
All right. Magic and spells. Magic is both powerful and dangerous. Can you turn into a demon randomly?
Yeah. I don't know if it's going to be that dangerous.
I don't think it's going to be that dangerous.
I feel like you would have some complaints.
Magic exists both with a force within you, and you may be able to draw on it to give aid throughout your journey, and a force outside of you that can be tapped into by those who know how to harness it. Okay. Flavoring your game. All right. Bunch of stuff here. We need 2 to 5 player characters, a game master. We need all the dice, but also 2d12.
Oh, they do use all the dice.
Yeah, they do use all the dice. Well, they did say there's damage dice. So that's again, I think people would riot if they didn't get to use all their dice. Critical Role alone should understand that their core. If you're a Critical Role fan and you're buying this game, that you have several $700 sets of dice that you bought.
I was gonna say, what else are you gonna buy in 5e, right? Like dice endlessly.
Yeah. Character tokens are small objects that represent the look and feel of your character. Huh.
Gather about 7 tokens per player.
Some players may need more or less. Interesting. So like your own custom.
When you roll dice, you'll add tokens to help you easily count your modifiers on the rolls. This is just
this is different than minis. I think this is like...
Yeah, it's not saying minis.
It's like your bead trackers that you always have the colored beads.
These tokens not only make your rolls and actions easier to resolve, but also provide an opportunity to further express the color palette and style of your character at the table. You can use whatever small objects you would like, plastic gems, pennies, buttons, but we recommend they be no larger than a quarter and sit on the table without rolling away. They should ideally have a distinct appearance for your character so that you won't get confused for somebody else's tokens at the table. It's very interesting.
Are they going to sell? This is like a merch way to sell merch.
Apparently, these, reading this section above.
Yeah,
you're going to add tokens to help you easily count your modifiers on the roll.
Okay.
So I guess tokens are temporary modifiers. When you make an action roll while in combat, you'll add 1 token to the action tracker. So that's a thing.
Oh yeah.
Maybe that's how like the GM gets fear or something. I don't know.
And when you use a spell or ability, its card might ask you to place a token on it, because that is something else here. Game card. Along with this rulebook, you'll also need the cards that come with the core set: your ancestry, your community, your foundation, and the domain cards, as well as an action tracker and an X card, which we know is the thing that you save. Now,
sweet
bias
cards
here. We like cards.
I love props.
We love props. We love physical paraphernalia.
I'm pretty sure, like, if I told you that we all needed these tokens, you would have a 6 set of tokens, like that resemble your character.
So
or something
AKL,
like that. Cool.
AKL in chat says the tokens are optional. They're supposed to reduce cognitive load for adding modifiers. Also, aesthetics for those who are into that. So I'm guessing that, like, if I roll my 2d12, and then I say, okay, I've got, my strength is +2. So I'm going to have 2 of my gems and +2. And it's like, oh, and Smith, you're helping me. So I'm going to take you, put it in my hand. And then I roll it, and you get a D12 and a D12. And then there's the 3 glass beads.
7 pieces of 8.
And so you go like, oh, okay. So I got a 7 and a 5. That's 12. Plus 1, 2, 3. Like, it's right there.
I can kind of see that working.
Yeah, me too, actually. And there's a tacticalness to that, a tactileness to that. Not tactical, tactile, like the feeling it. I think it'd be interesting. But
I kind of want to play with like all of the something that's like really fidgety, where you get lots of random like +1s and crap.
Yeah,
like using like little beads
instead of having to track them.
Yeah,
I kind of like that.
Yeah,
I think I would like that. Anyways, probably irrelevant if you're playing online, but we like cards. We like physical props, so this is not a problem for me. And then you have a character sheet. Optional maps and minis. Using maps and minis to represent the scenarios the players are facing, especially during battle, can help illustrate the scene rather than solely relying on the theater of the mind. And when drawing or building a map, it's not always going to be perfectly accurate, and that's okay. So optional.
Optional. So
yeah, optional.
Combat is not necessarily mini.
And then we've got some player safety stuff here about diversity, inclusion, lines and veils, X card, and open door policy. Yep. Okay, great. All right. So we've got a couple parts here. And what I want to do first is, you guys tell me, do we want to You want to start with character creation, or do you want to skip to part 2? Because we're going to skip part 3 and part 4, probably running a campaign and running an adventure. But we could either go to the core mechanics of the game first, or we can learn about how to make a character first.
I kind of want to know the mechanics so that I can know why a character is good or bad.
That's usually my take on it too. Now I will say, I do want to go into the player materials. I just want to bring up one of the character sheets here real quick. So we got the Bard.
Well, Vin super chat. Darn it, I'm late. TLDW me.
Oh, yeah, Vin, actually, he reminds me. So going back up to the number of influences this game has, I was going to say, at first glance, this feels like a Venn house rule document. So it's going to be interesting to see how well the designers made all that flow together, right? You know, because like I think another good game that did that well was Fabula Ultima, because you can see all of the different systems, inspirations that they pulled together to make that game. Sometimes I find that actually a little jarring, right? Because like I think it's a me problem, right? But it's like one of those things where like when I'm playing the game and I'm switching from mechanic to mechanic, my brain's going like, wait, isn't that this game? Isn't that this game? Isn't that this game? You know? So like I find that distracting, but I'm hoping that these guys did a good job making it all mesh. So it doesn't just feel like, you know.
It doesn't actually feel like a 400-page game.
Right.
Yeah. Gabriel says plus 400 pages and it's supposed to not be crunchy. Gabe, we'll figure out. Now remember,
some of it's monsters. Well, no.
Remember, and this is we've gone here on Night's Last Call. We've talked about this many times. The difference between people talk about crunchy, but there's a difference between complex and complicated. Right. Complex mechanics are ones that require a lot of thought and processing. Complicated might just mean there's a lot of options. Right. Like if you're playing a game that has only 3 classes. Well, that game's not very complicated.
Right.
You could have a very simple, dead simple game, but it might have 20 classes or 30 classes. So suddenly you've increased the complication. Vin, so far, it sounds like it's a attempt to create a PBTA game while adding in D&D style combat. That's what I'm feeling.
Like old D&D style.
Well, we'll see. Not super tactical.
Not D20.
Not D20, but you know, kind of like that.
Well, to be fair, I mean, probably what people would play in 5th edition.
Correct.
Yeah,
exactly.
All right, so which one of these are we clicking on?
The Bard.
Oh, you went back to the
That
players.
was what I didn't download.
Okay, well, I can change then. Which one did you download?
I have the Seraph, I have the Wizard, I have the Sorcerer.
All right, we'll look at the
and
Wizard.
I
We'll look at the
have
Wizard.
The Warrior.
Okay,
You're a
So I wanted to
wizard.
compare like a Warrior versus like a caster.
Gotcha.
And then I want to know how they handled healing.
I'm kind of digging this symbol.
So real
This
quick,
is a really
Which one are
good.
you on?
just on the Wizard, because that's the one that
Wizard.
people did
Like,
have.
look at that heart, dagger, blood. It is clean.
So there's 14 steps here. One,
Yeah,
we
I
choose.
like their art.
So we have class. This is a class-based system. 2, you choose a subclass. So very similar to people who played 5e. Heritage is made up of your ancestry and community, which again we like. I really like when you have the difference between basically what was I born and how did I grow up.
I actually thought when PF2 came out that was really
That
good.
was a nice innovation from PF2.
Yeah.
I agree. Set your traits and evasion. You get a standard array of -1, 0 to a +2 across your character traits. Okay, so
PBTA.
it's just it's almost PBTA like. When rolling, this is what you're going to be adding to your character trait. So you're going to be adding anywhere from -1 to +2 to your 2d12. It's pretty reasonable.
I wonder if items give you another bonus.
Potentially. Set your threat. It starts to feel a little bit like when you're building your dice pool in Forbidden Lands.
Right.
Which I don't mind. I kind of like it. I think
I
it's
like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Set your thresholds and hope. Each class will start with its own damage thresholds. Okay. I don't know what that is. Then take 2 hope.
Is it like a threshold of pain?
You're right. Yeah. If you take more damage than this, your character becomes stunned and writhing on the ground.
Hey, listen, they promised deadly combat.
That's true.
Or perilous combat.
They said perilous. Then we get starting weapons, starting armor, inventory. We choose a description. We get our deck of cards from our domain.
Yes.
Then we answer some background characters. We generate some experiences. And again, when reading this here, this is very much 13. This is exactly 13th age backstory because you are creating a background, except they called it an experience. You get one at +2 and the other at +1.
Yeah.
And if you've ever played 13th age, you know that is exactly what you do in 13th age, except I think you also get one at +3.
I think
Or maybe you get 6
you
points.
get another one later, I think.
You do get more backgrounds later, which
Yeah.
I thought was a little strange.
That was weird.
Yeah, I thought it was a little weird. But I think you get like 6 points to distribute.
Background adventure.
I think you get 6 points to distribute through a minimum of 3 backgrounds.
Yes.
Because you can't be like, I have 1 background and it's +6. You
Right.
can't do that.
I was a really good Imperial.
Then we
guy.
get name, pronouns, and we create connections. So basically, I'm assuming this is FBT, but just like how do we know each other?
Yeah.
You know, aka skip this step and just go get
Unless there's strings.
unless there is strings, which they didn't
They
list.
said, I don't know, lots of player-driven emotional experience.
They didn't list Monster Hearts as an inspiration.
Okay.
So, this is straight out of a PBTA playbook. We've got a bunch of suggested names.
Yep. They know their audience.
For what you're doing here, which is great.
Even a god generator, perfect.
Great. I am Borio, the god of victory. All right. So let's go to Wizard. So from top to left. So Wizard has two symbols associated with it, Codex and Splendor. And the only reason I bring that up is because I was previously looking at the Bard, and the Bard had the same symbol, but the Bard was Grace and Codex, which makes me wonder if part of the Wizard's, like what defines a class in this game is two domains or of area, or two like what do we call them, portfolios.
Actually, is that the domain?
So because they mentioned earlier this idea of domains. And so like the idea being like, kind of like combining
Codex is a domain.
Role and power source.
Yeah.
From
says the domains, each class has two, and each domain is shared by two classes.
Oh, there you go.
Cool.
So the Codex
That's
belongs to
AKL.
Bard and Wizard.
Yeah,
which is really cool.
Codex opened up here on my screen. It's like 3 powers: the Book of Iliad, the Book of Typhar, and the Book of Ava.
Got it.
They do stuff.
So that's kind of cool. So it's not like your class does not have a primary set of abilities that only belong to that class, at least from this
Right.
look. But there's kind of a shared. All right, we'll see what that happens.
That's interesting game design because jumping ahead,
Yeah.
right? But like does that open the door for interesting multi-class options?
Right.
Does that open the door where instead of adding new classes in the future, they add more domains?
Well, the other thing is by adding one new domain,
Right.
you
How many classes do you make?
theoretically create 8 new classes.
Right.
I mean, assuming we want symmetry and we want to have everything with everything. But yeah, that's kind of a cool idea.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something I always wanted.
It's interesting design space.
Yeah, it is. So then we have our names, basic information on our character. We do have a level. We have evasion, which I'm guessing is armor class. It says it starts at 8. But here's the difference. It has an armor as a separate box with boxes next to it.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming
Armor
armor
probably
is like a
ticks,
DR.
DR, yeah.
So they're contrasting between it.
I
DR
mean,
damage reducer.
That makes
Damage reduction.
sense to anyone who can think beyond Dungeons and Dragons. Because again, as we often bring up on this channel, what the fuck is armor class anyway?
Correct.
You know?
It makes much more, because again, even when you're sitting at your table and you know that your character is heavily armored and they are coated in head to toe, when the GM rolls low, what do you say? You missed.
Yeah.
And in everybody's shared mental space, the attack went wide. Nobody's like, well, you hit, but it didn't penetrate the armor.
Ding,
you know,
ding, ding.
Right.
you know.
The
I
armor.
mean, like that's just the way people think about it. Any case, so then we have 6 stats, which are very similar to D&D, except we have divided dexterity. It looks like into 2 stats, and we got rid of con. And I don't know that I hate that. We have agility and finesse as our kind of dexterity skill stats. We have strength, and then we have instinct, which is very clearly wisdom, and we have presence, which is very clearly charisma, and we have knowledge, which is very clearly intelligence.
I do like the small text underneath to kind of give you the little example. Like, what is agility? Sprint, leap, maneuver. I like real clear and easy to read, like right there. That's kind of nice.
sheet.
Yeah.
So getting rid of con makes sense because this is obviously going to be like in a kind of an approach-based game, right?
Well, the other thing
there's
too
not
is
a lot of context.
Con is never particularly interesting because everybody wants hit points. And what does it mean, by the way, to be really strong but weak but frail?
Yeah.
I've always wondered that myself. You know, like what does an 18 strength 6 con character look like?
Right.
We just associate those two things so closely with one another.
Yeah, I don't think I hate it either.
Yeah.
That
And
being
also-
said, I've always been a fan of the 4E endurance skill
sure.
because I feel like there's a lot of times where it's just like, can you take it or not? Right. Admittedly, you had things like Fort Save.
Yeah, I mean,
so
even in Forbidden Lands, you don't have a con, you have
Right, you
strength.
have strength.
But one of the skills of strength is endurance.
Yeah.
So there's an element there.
Yeah.
So
And so I guess like my first question here would be like, what's to check to endure something, right?
Right.
I don't know.
I
Maybe
mean,
we'll get into it.
my instinct is to say strength, but we'll get into it. Again, we're just reacting here. That's the whole point of this. Again, if you're interested in this game, it's free. You can go to their site and check it out. It's out of the NDA and all that other stuff. But we're just kind of giving you our thoughts as we kind of go through this. And again, thank you to Vin for the $1.30 for our tip calls. So then we have hit points and stress. So minor starts at 2, major starts at 7, severe starts at 12. And then we have our hit point track below that.
I wonder what that minor, major, severe.
Okay,
track
so
is.
I'm thinking
Remember we
that-
talked about threshold
I'm thinking
earlier.
this is Blades in the Dark. Okay.
Oh, I gotcha.
So what's happening is, my guess is, if you take more than 2 damage, but less than 7, then that is a minor wound, which is 1 hit point of damage. So if you took 99 damage.
Oh, I was like, where did you get 7 from? I see it up top now.
Yeah, that's
Got
right.
it,
That's
yeah.
where they start at. I'm sure they get modified by your character. So what that means is basically all the damage rolls get converted into 1, 2, or 3.
Oh, interesting.
It's like a mapping.
Interesting.
Now, it doesn't describe what happens.
What the hell? You roll damage though.
Right, but you're just rolling damage to see whether you did 1, 2, or 3.
Players roll damage. Maybe monsters don't roll damage.
Some monsters might roll damage. Maybe they don't. I don't know. No, because you have this
I thought
damage
I just
value
said DM just rolls a d20.
to attack. We don't know about the damage dice because there is a threshold here. So I think the idea here, what I think they're trying to do here is, if they just said
Or is
that,
damage not
if they
going to
just
hit
said
points,
if they just
maybe.
said, if they just said everything did 1, 2, and 3 damage, I think it wouldn't give them a lot of tools
Yeah.
and levers, and people would get really upset because, like, how do I show that I do more damage?
AKL says also that if it's below minor, it's +1 stress instead.
Got it.
And you can use stress can be spent to do stuff.
So right, so we have HP and
interesting.
stress,
Which I like.
which I know you like.
Yeah.
Right. Because,
Well, 'cause
like, for
stress is
example,
another lever.
Root had
Yeah.
exhaustion
Yeah.
and it had injury,
Yeah.
which is 2 separate tracks.
Yeah.
And that is literally what we were looking at here,
Yeah.
right? Exhaustion, injury. And especially if stress can be used like it can in other Blades in the Dark PBTA games to power abilities or
It's
use extra
probably some
stuff.
sort of resource.
It's something.
If nothing else, it's there for the GM to go mark stress.
Mark stress, yeah.
Yeah.
So someone did say in the comments that each class is different on what a minor, major, and severe is. Because I just opened up the druid and theirs
gotcha.
is
Yep.
4, 9,
The
and
bard
14.
is 3, 8, 13.
Yep.
So 12 damage to the wizard would be a severe wound and would be 3 hit points. But to the bard, that would only be a major wound, would be 2 damage. And do they all start with 6 hit points? They all do seem to start with 6 hit points, although obviously there's room to build out your
Sure.
HP track here.
That seems interesting that, instead of bouncing a class through the hit points, they bounced it through like their threshold.
Their threshold, how you take damage. I mean, this does solve a couple problems. Number one, you can't get hit for 30 and die.
Right.
It will always take you at least 2 massive hits to die. Always.
As far as we know.
Yeah, as far as we know. Yeah. So, that's interesting. The other thing that it does is we are doing a conversion, and instead of having to subtract 13 from 57, it just becomes Mark 3.
Right.
Because yes, you are doing math to figure out whether it's a severe, major, or minor, but that is like instant math.
It's cool. Yeah. It's
Is the
easier
number
math,
is the
yeah.
number bigger? Is the number between? Like, we can just do that really, really quick, and so that makes it really easy to slot in there.
Yeah.
I don't hate it. I'm interested.
I want to see.
And
the other
also,
half of
I've
it.
always liked Blaze in the Dark. This idea of like the minor wound, the major wound, the severe wound.
I feel like this is also something like after you play it a few times, it just becomes second nature.
Probably.
100%,
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Anyways, and the fact that these are all it says start at minor, major, severe. So there's levers probably maybe that you can do to change that. And you can even feel how that would affect the sort of tactical feel of the difference. Like, imagine if you're raising your severe threshold up.
Yeah.
So that means that when you do get hit big, it's less often going to be 3 damage. It's going to be more 2 damage. But if you're raising up your minor, it changes like all the nickel and dime types hits. And so
Yeah.
it's a very different feel for how the character progresses. It's very interesting. So then we have our hope, which we spend hope to use an experience or help an ally. So
Interesting. So backgrounds are not just backgrounds.
because backgrounds that's where they use the term experience, right?
Yeah.
So if I want to be able to use my bullshit +2,
this is like some fate shit.
this is some fate shit.
God damn it.
This is definitely
Get your
some-
fate out of my D&D PBTA.
So this is 100%. This is definitely. Basically, experiences are aspects.
Well, at least they're just
Now the question is, how do you acquire?
limited thing.
Okay, but
yeah.
you never hated that. How do you acquire hope is the question.
Yes.
Now there is something here which is secondary to this, and I do want to address this, which is help an ally, cost hope. Games where you can help. I mean, look, it's just second nature. Can I help? Can I help? Can I help? Can I help? games that allow people to help it doesn't have any sort of cost annoy me these days. And as we know, when
clearly this is a lesson learned from 5th edition.
Lesson learned from 5th edition is by far the most egregious of this, because with help in 5th edition, you get advantage.
Get advantage.
But it's
so
like,
people are like, guidance, and I help them.
But it costs.
Okay,
Dragonbane's
Bob,
the
you
same.
get
You
plus
get a boon.
1d4 to your plus 6.
Dragonbane, you get a D4 and or a boon,
it's a
which
boon.
is
It's
which is
super-
advantage, and it's super powerful.
Yeah.
It's so powerful.
And in the original Dungeon World, it was really horrible because not only did you have to, it was a move, so you had to roll 2d6 and have potentially have a miss and a hit, and that's why when Magpie came out, and Magpie made helping be like, yeah, you could give somebody a +1, but it costs you an exhaustion.
Yeah.
And I like that it has this cost, because now the decision for me to help you is a decision, right? Which I think is, or the other games, it doesn't cost you anything. It just takes your whole fucking turn.
Right, which also sucks.
Which also sucks. I want to do stuff. I don't want to I want to help you.
Yeah.
And so when you know that, if I'm helping you in Root or I'm helping you in Avatar Legends, and you know that it's costing me part of my personal resource, it feels like it means more.
Yeah.
Whereas in 5th edition, it's just like, oh, I'll help.
Smith, can you read Vin's comment? It's for you. I mean, it's not for you, but it
which
is.
one?
His latest super chat.
I was initially mixed, but the threshold numbers can go up pretty quick, so I'm happy. Numbers must go burr. Also, it's very house friendly. I don't
numbers
think
go
they're
burr.
get anime numbers here.
Yes. Shout out to Jonas and Whipplestein. They just re-upped their sponsorship of this channel. So thank you so much. Gentlemen. Actually, we have a couple. I polled this people. We have a couple emoji slots open because I took out some of the old Root ones, and so now we need to vote for new.
It's funny. So I saw that and I was
emojis.
like typing in what I wanted. I'm like, Bob, it's not for you. It's for the fans.
Wow, you showed
Wow.
restraint.
Character growth.
delete.
God damn, he does listen every now and then.
So then
that should be easy there. We'll just pick a common theme that our show is about, and then base emojis off that.
there you go.
So, like a game that we play constantly.
I don't understand.
That's my point. We're all over the place. What are we going to possibly do?
I thought you were going to do like rolling emojis.
Oh,
That
no.
sounds annoying.
People have said they want a whiteboard emoji for a while.
Oh, the whiteboard emoji
Whiteboard's
would
a
be
good
pretty
one.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So it's got to be more like, what is something that always happens on the stream?
Emojis kind of suck, honestly. They're so small. Like,
They're tough.
this would be better with stickers.
Stickers would be really good.
Stickers would be way better.
Because it'd be funny.
Stickers really
I don't
bam
know.
right in your
Cartoon Derek whiteboard popping up
That'd
every
be
time he
super
pulls
good.
it out. You just see chat flooded with it.
That would be super good.
Come on, YouTube. Come on, get on.
Seriously, YouTube.
So then we have a room for our experiences, which again are going to basically be like fate aspects.
Right.
Gold has its own track.
Dave.
What
Blades
is-
in the dark disc.
Yeah, what
the
is
hell?
this? Because I don't understand this,
My
and
guess
this looks
is they,
crazy.
They blaze in the dark to this.
It looks weird. I don't know what I'm
is
looking at.
when you earn gold, you earn like
A tick?
you earn a tick, and so then like the first 5 ticks are handfuls of gold, and then you have bags of gold, then you have chests of gold, hordes
So
of gold.
do you assume
and
it's
hordes-
harder to earn as you
I have
keep
no
going?
idea.
It looks so weird to
I
look
have no
at.
idea. So then we have active weapons. There's a proficiency tracker built in. I mean, the design of the character sheet is very slick. I got to admit.
Oh, yeah, they did a great job.
Yeah, this is very clean.
The weapons seem pretty simple. They have a trait, a range, damage dice, and some features. So presumably there's a little bit of activeness.
Handiness is up on the top as well.
Got it. Yep.
oh, yeah, that's nice.
And then you have inventory. You have some armor, active armor, but then you also have inventory armor.
What's that about?
Armor in my inventory?
I guess maybe like a backup armor.
Do I need backup armor?
I don't know.
I don't know what that means.
And then our wizard has 2 class features. We have prestidigitation, so we can just prestidigitate. And then we have strange patterns. Choose any number between 1 to 12. Anytime you roll that number on a duality die, gain a hope or clear a stress.
That's very, weirdly archaic. It's like that old school
It's
wizard.
old school wizard. That's
Yeah.
very Jack Vancian.
100%.
I agree.
100%.
I agree.
I appreciate the effort.
I
put
do
there.
actually as well too.
Reminds me of like the game of life, like back in the day, where you had to pick your square to like get your lottery reward, basically.
Okay. So then we go to page 2. We see that the game suggests that we start with these traits, but again, we can put them anywhere. We suggest some armor. Suggest armor. Breastplate armor.
For the
Interesting.
wizard? For the wizard?
Yeah, for the wizard. Breastplate armor.
Huh.
Okay, I guess there's no armor proficiency.
Yeah. Inventory.
But there is a weapon proficiency.
Yes. Well, we don't know exactly what that dot means, but
Well, it says proficiency.
yeah, I don't know if that means you're adding that as like a gem.
I don't know.
Inventory. Take a torch, 50 feet of rope, basic supplies, and a handful of gold. Then choose between a minor health potion or a minor stamina potion. Props for including.
I like that.
I like that too. And then either a book that you're trying to translate or a tiny and harmless elemental pet. Then decide what you carry your spells in. Large tomes, tarot cards, etc.
That's cool.
I like it.
Yep.
Then they very much get out.
Yeah, you had a tarot wizard.
I did have a tarot wizard.
That was awesome.
That was very cool. That was 3 Point Smith.
That was 3 Point Smith.
Yes. Then this is all very much from PBTA playbooks, right? Which is like choose your character's description. What do you look like? Whatever the stuff. Background questions. What are your connections to other players? And then we have all the leveling up stuff. So when you level up, record it on your character sheet, then choose
here's the playbook.
two. This is very much a playbook. I mean, they said the playbook.
Yeah, the playbook design.
I mean, this is a playbook design. I mean, real quick, do you like playbook design? Because I like it, and I feel like you don't.
When you say playbook design, that's kind of like we did in Root. Okay. I mean, I liked it in Root. I don't know if I'd like it in every system.
I mean, I don't hate it.
Yeah. I mean, because when you level up, you could get a certain number of choices. I just like the idea.
It's quick and efficient.
Well, the thing I like about it is it's instead of saying, hey, you're level 2, you get this ability now.
Yeah.
You get to pick. You get to customize.
Yeah, that part's pretty cool.
Because, I mean, here we go. I mean, levels 2 through 4, yeah, you get 2 boxes. So you can increase 2 unmarked character traits by +1 and mark them. So basically you can boost them by +1, then, they're marked. You can't boost them again.
Interesting. Nice. So just one and done, huh?
Apparently. And then it says, oh, no, because when you go to level 5, look, it says clear all marks on your character traits.
Oh, marked for a little bit. That's clever.
Marked for a little bit. That's
like
clever.
that. I like
that is clever. I like that. We can permanently add a hit point slot.
God damn, sorry. That's just so much better than fucking
the
Pathfinder.
Pathfinder's, yeah.
God damn.
The boosted question mark, but then needs a second one. Yeah, this is much better.
That might be the thing I dislike most about Remaster.
Is the boosting mark.
It was just like...
It's just very inelegant.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could have just cleaned it up 18 ways.
Yeah.
Permanently add a hit point slot, permanently add a stress slot, increase 2 of your experiences by +1, increase your proficiency by +1. So it's just generic proficiency. Permanently add 1 armor slot.
So we got to read the armor rules at some point because they're doing some shit there.
Or take a +1 to your evasion, increase your major damage threshold by 2, increase your minor damage by +1. Then increase, so you do that. Then then you always increase your severe damage threshold by +2. So that's really interesting because what'll happen throughout the course of the game is your hit points. I mean, obviously you could take extra hit point slots, but if you took them all, I think you'd have 12 HP at the end of the game. But you start with 6. But what happens is those damage thresholds go up by enough that it feels like you're tougher without having to deal with 155 HP.
I appreciate the effort.
Is that just leveling? Is like level appropriate damage though?
I don't know. I mean, yes. Who knows what there's a CR system here?
Yeah.
I appreciate that they're really trying hard to not make people do math.
Yes.
Like,
I agree. They are definitely trying.
That is great because they know their 5e audience because no one in 5e wants to do math. And they also know everyone else who's been doing math is tired of doing math because math sucks.
It's not what I want to do on my Friday night.
I appreciate that. That's pretty clever.
I do it at work.
If it and we're not going to be able to get to this in the stream, obviously, but like, if it feels good, will be the question.
Right.
Do I feel tough?
Right. A lot of times, this is a very interesting mechanic.
Right.
But then it falls flat because at the end of the day, does it feel like your character is this tough character when your hit points aren't going up a ton, you know? On the other hand, I could see, I don't know if they have a barbarian, but like the wizard's minor threshold or something was 2 and the bard's was 3. If the barbarian's is like 7.
Right. I got let's see.
They have a guardian.
What does the warrior get?
Yeah, what's a warrior?
Warrior, minor 5, major 10, severe 15.
Yeah, I mean that's
kind of sweet.
I mean that's pretty good. And then so I mean you're gonna probably, and then of course if your character chooses to take more of those increase your damage threshold abilities, your character, you might take, I increase my major damage threshold by +2, and then I increase my minor damage threshold by +1. Maybe the wizard doesn't take that, and so now you're even more tough. So that's pretty cool.
I like that.
There's a lot of customization there.
So what I'll say about this,
you're going to level 2, 3, 4. So you're going to get 6 of these boxes, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you get 6 of the 10 boxes.
Yeah.
That feels like the right number. Maybe like 6. Because if it's like 8 or 9, then the question is, which one don't I get?
Right.
And if it's like 3, I think you're going to have people feeling FOMO.
Right. 6 feels like, that hurts, but I can still make a decision.
And you get to make 2 at a time. You get 2 boxes each time you level, which is nice. So you're not just getting 1. You could choose the hit point slot and the armor slot. You could choose major damage and minor damage. So I think that's really interesting. And then the last thing, by the way, you get a new domain deck card. at your level or lower.
So I was going to say, what I like about this better than your typical playbook structure is, one, you get to check more than one box.
Yes.
Because it can be really like, oh, cool, we leveled, which, you don't really know when you're going to level in PBTA because, well, at least like with Root, last one we played, like it's entirely dependent on what's going on. If you pick the right, whatever the fuck they are, principles or whatever, their version of it. And then when you do level, it's like you're checking like one thing. Right?
You get one thing.
Cool, I got another proficiency or whatever, right?
Right.
So I like that one. You get 2 boxes here. That's cool. Doesn't feel like you're dragging it out.
Yep.
But I very much like that you still get a domain power, which is like the fun, flashy boom thing.
Right. It's not choose between stat and fun new power.
Right.
You get the fun new power.
Now,
granted, that feels a lot like Gloomhaven. You got your deck of card powers. I like that. I like that too.
I liked a lot in Gloomhaven. There's like one thing I don't like in Gloomhaven. Other than that, it was like awesome. Now the one thing, and it's a play test, so who the fuck knows? Oh, I see. These are just level 1s. Okay.
Yep. Now,
there we go. Level 2. I was gonna say it looked like that there were only 3 cards for a domain, but that was literally 3 cards for level 1.
Got it. Right. And it's got to be your level or lower. So just like in Gloomhaven, you could take a lower level card if you want to.
Yeah. When I actually scroll through this
now,
deck,
when you go to level 5,
powers,
so a couple things. By the way, at level 2, you also get an additional experience. And then at level 5, you get an additional experience. So I like this. Here's why I like this. It's diegetic in a way while still being tied to level. Because if it was background, we said this before in 13th Age.
Yes.
Why am I gaining a new background?
The word was bad.
The word was bad. By calling it an experience, you could put in, well, what happened to me in that first level?
Right.
Or what happened to me through levels 1 through 4? That becomes my new experience. Orc Slayer or something, Orc Hunter. And that becomes my new experience, reflecting not some made up bullshit backstory, but
something
the actual stuff that we did.
Play
and you
to find out.
Play to find out.
And so again, that's nice. That ties right back into like their objectives.
Right, exactly. Right. That's
I do like that better than backgrounds.
I do like that better than backgrounds, though. And by the way, James Torres says there's a max of 5 cards at a time, though.
Oh, I like that too.
So you have your spell book.
There you go. That's actually one of the few things that Derek and I disagree on. I really like Vancian spellcasting, specifically because of the strategy and mechanics behind it. I love the idea of like, if you're playing in a game system in a campaign setting that supports preparation, like I love being able to like choose my strategy, choose my loadout, and go out and do it. Having everything at my disposal always felt like lame. So I appreciate here where it's like you might get a ton of sweet cards, and then like, okay, I got to prepare.
Yeah. Now,
what are my 5 choices?
Now, Anon says it's starting to feel like a board game for some reason, and that's because we're talking about game mechanics. And that anytime you talk about game mechanics, it's going to feel like a board game.
Now, someone says, well, it's 5 cards max, but you can use stress to pull out from your vault.
I like that too.
Is it called the vault? Because that's a sweet name.
They use quotations. I don't know if that's true or
Okay,
not.
we're calling it that now.
I mean, that's a great name. I don't know if they made that name up. If they did, good for them. If that came out of high, then that's a great name.
Matt Mercer's watching the stream right now. Right?
Yeah, right. He's getting ready.
He's getting ready for his.
Interestingly, at level 5 is when you can start to multi-class. You can't multi-class from the beginning of the game.
I also like that.
I like that too.
I feel like you should be a thing before you leave
it's
the thing.
vault.
Because that was kind of like one of my gripes. And you know me, I'm a big fan of multi-classing, but I didn't like the cherry picking that kind of went on in 3rd edition.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, it's called your loadout and your vault.
It's called your loadout and your vault. Wow, that's pretty good. All
right.
That's good language.
I like that language.
All right.
Wait till you keep going down till you get to the pictures.
So then we got the equipment. We got axes.
Let me just see if there's anything fancy in the level 10 one here. Big damage threshold increases. That's cool.
Yeah.
Upgrade subclass card. That sounds neat.
Yeah.
And then, I like the multi-class card. And let's see, multi-class.
Choose an additional class for your character, then cross out an unused, take an upgraded subclass card and the other multi-class option on this sheet.
So I wonder if subclass is a domain?
Maybe. I don't know.
Because that would kind of like go back into like
Right.
what we were talking about before, how that you would think that would play easily.
Ooh.
In
so you have physical weapons and magic weapons, starting weapons.
Nice.
So the wizard has a wand as a weapon.
Mm-hmm.
The range is far. It uses knowledge to attack, and it does D8 damage.
I like that.
I like that a lot.
Oh, I kind of like hand runes. That is a cool flavor.
You know
to
what that feels like? Descent.
I know. It's kind of.
It feels like Descent.
Yeah.
And you know what? This is like, by the way,
Some
from
of
everybody.
this has
I love
really-
that staff. Look at that.
Yeah.
Look at the great staff.
knowledge very far. Powerful. Roll 1 extra damage die and drop low. Right. And so, like, this is what game did that? Where it used Descent did that because like Descent 2nd edition, magic wands, runes were just damage dice. Yeah, they were just range damage. It didn't do anything. It functioned the same as a bow or famous thing.
Well, this is also like an MMO, and I'm trying to remember what
also,
casters had in FU. I think there's magic weapons.
We've said this many times, by the way, also to him, like you only need like 10 to 20 weapons. I don't think you need 80 weapons, 100 weapons.
I always found it so weird in PF2 where they keep releasing new weapons. I'm like, you have like 6 traits, 2 of them do something, right? Like, honestly, my only complaint here is there's a lot of blanks in the features.
Well, I think the difference there is going to be the damage and the range and what they attack with.
So someone just brought this up, and I did it actually say that it's going to use zones? Because it talks about zones here. Melee, very close, far, very far.
Point.
Oh, maybe.
So someone, KC was like, "Oh, did I miss this? The system has combat zones." I'm like,
I mean, the fact
we suspect, but we don't.
I mean, the fact that the range
now that we're seeing it, probably
the ranges aren't feet.
The ranges are not feet.
Yeah,
and it's not just melee because I just saw melee.
Yeah,
but then I didn't realize. Far. What does far mean?
Right.
Well, theater of the mind. I mean,
on the plus
far
side,
away.
at least these ones make sense.
Yeah.
Right. Melee, very close.
Right.
Close, far, very far.
Yeah, these are pretty cool.
Like, no, but
Forbidden Lands got a little confusing.
Forbidden Lands fucks me up. I assume it's a Swedish thing, but like, the reason I I'm really hung up on like these traits because they like change what you're doing and they change how it feels. Like rolling 2d6 with advantage for damage, that's cool.
Yeah.
Right. So like having a wand and like, okay, let's see what the wand does. Like the wand, as far as I can tell, does just a little bit more damage, which arguably who cares because you're rolling an extra damage die anyway, so that's debatable. But like if the wand had a trait,
well, the wand is only one-handed.
Okay, that's something. But you see what I'm saying? Like if there were more traits to make it even more compelling, right?
Sure.
Like because I like that this could be part of the loadout, and that's where weapons often fail for me in modern games. Is that like it doesn't really matter. You pick your weapon and that's it. And you bake in your feats, you bake in your shit, and you're done, right? But versus like imagine before you start an adventure or you go in a dungeon, you choose the weapon. Right? Oh, we're gonna go fight undead and a tightly, closed tomb.
These are just the starting weapons. I mean, they're sure there's gonna be magic items.
I'm just saying.
I'm one of those people where I'm like,
weapon design can be a very cool place to do things.
Right. I guess. I guess some of me feels like that's where you leave that to like. That's how you get the cool treasure, and that has all the more feet. If the standard items have all those traits, then it starts to be like, well, what game design space do you have for magic items?
Well, I think you have a ton because I think weapon design space traditionally is very boring, and it gets to the point of why do you have so many weapons, right? Because like if a lot of these don't have traits, I don't know.
I mean, for me,
damage and range
to me,
and
this feels
is kind of boring.
To me, right? To me, I think it actually comes all down to that a lot. Like, look at the weapons. There's strength, melee, hollowed axe or arcane gauntlets. D10 versus none of them have traits. One does D10, one does D10 plus 2, and by the way, D10 plus 2 tends to be the two-handed version. So the difference there, they're both melee, is one does D10, one does D10 plus 2. Basically, do you want to give up your offhand to add +2 to your damage? I mean, I think that's the thing that
I guess that's just not nearly as interesting.
And especially because, look below here.
Actual gameplay tweak.
We have secondary weapons and we have starting armor. And by the way, this is starting armor, so I don't know if any of you can just. I mean, obviously the wizard didn't say you could start with full plate, but I'm assuming there's got to be a class out there that can. Full plate has an armor score of 9.
Wow.
And by the way, if you have a tower shield, it adds 4 to your armor score.
And a penalty to your evasion.
So does full plate. So does full plate.
Little hackmaster in there.
Little hackmaster.
How come that wasn't listed as an inspiration?
It's
only the greatest game ever created.
Right. Oh, and then we get the play guide. So now we actually get to learn how the game works. This is nice.
Let's see how right we are.
Let's see how right or wrong we are. Okay. Let's look down the left here. Action rolls. Okay, when the GM calls for an action roll, decide what modifiers apply. Spend hope to add an experience. Okay, so you have your 6 stats. And then
why is it +1 thief in this example?
I do not know what +1 thief. Oh, that's your experience.
Oh, got it.
That's your background. But you have to spend a hope in order to add that in.
So by default, you're just adding your trait.
By the default, you're adding
But you
agility
could spend a hope and add a relevant background.
and add a relevant experience. But yes.
Sorry, experience.
Yes.
Which could be a significant boost.
Right.
It doesn't take a lot to get high.
Then you roll your duality dice and add them together along with any modifiers.
Yep.
Tell the GM the result and which duality die rolled higher. So, for example, we have 1 + 1 agility, + 1 thief, a 6, and 12. So that's 18 + 2, 20. And this is why they were saying before, it's optional, but you might have, you put in your little tokens for those two just so that you know what's in the dice pool.
I mean, the more you think about it, the less I hate
You know what
that.
they basically are? They are D1s.
Yeah. Yeah.
They are D1s.
But like the adding it, I mean, someone said in the chat, the cognitive load, you take that off.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to try that next time we're doing things with dice that matter.
Yeah.
I don't think we don't have modifiers at the moment. So
What do you mean modifiers?
in FL,
No, I don't think there ever are modifiers.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
So we can't test this
Actually,
right now.
you know what? You do have modifiers. It's called add another die.
Yeah, but I'm saying like we're never adding a 1 or 2,
you're
right?
correct.
So we're not testing this anytime soon.
Correct.
But I do want to try that.
So then you tell the GM what they got and which duality rolled higher. If you roll the same number, it's a crit.
Okay.
So that might be a reason to do. I mean, I don't know how much they want to do. If you use 2d10,
Yep.
then you crit 10% of the time. If you use 2d12, you crit like 8.3% of the time.
Okay.
So, and in my world, I think 5% crit rate is too low,
Right.
and I think 10% crit rate is too high.
Really
I think 10% crit rate's too high,
interesting.
especially if in
Because
this.
I mean, that's just a long sword in 3rd edition, and I felt like I never crit anyone.
No, because you had to threaten and
Sure.
then hit.
Sure.
And assuming you had a 50% chance of hitting,
Yeah.
you had a 10% chance of threatening and then only a 50% chance of hitting. So
Yeah.
you only had a 5% chance of critting.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. Good.
And more or less, Troy just became a subscriber.
Oh,
Or
thank
Tori. Sorry, I said Troy. More or less, Tori.
I mean, we get a lot of subscribers.
More or less,
Bob.
you got it right, Bob.
Yeah, more or less. It was reading it weird, like more or less this person jumped in the thing. I was like, what am I reading? But thank you.
So what do we got in these action results? On a critical success, make it you roll doubles.
Yep.
You get what you want and more.
All right, there. That's that PBTA language. You
Yeah.
get what you want.
Yeah. Gain a hope and clear a stress.
That's nice.
Okay.
so that
Crits feel nice.
Let's be clear. Crits feel nice.
You're getting 2 resources, and you
and-
got what you wanted.
And you got, I'm assuming it means and a little more.
Oh, that's true.
Because
Yeah, I mean, that's up to the GM,
That's a
right?
period, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, you get what you want and a little more, and you clear a hope and gain a hope, clear a stress.
Crits are a big deal.
Okay, and remember that's nice because it's giving you a resource, hope, and it's also taking away your negative resource.
Yeah.
right. So it's kind of nice. All right, on a success with hope, which means you beat the DC or equaled it or beat it, and your hope die was higher. So by the way, in any given roll. Well, it's not exactly 50-50 because sometimes they're going to be the same number. So
Sure.
it's 100. It's roughly like 46% that you will get a hope, 46% that you will get a fear, and then roughly like 8% that you will get a crit.
Right.
So-
and
so
a
it's-
crit, it doesn't matter because they're the same.
They're the same, and it just overrides. it.
Crit is bonkers.
On a success with hope, you pull it off well, and you get what you want,
And you gain a hope.
and you gain a hope.
So that's cool too. So you're going to generate a hope
Basically every other
roughly
roll.
every other action.
Actually, more than that because you get it 46% of the
And
time
also
plus
for
the
the crit.
8% for the crit. So you will generate it for a little bit more than 50% of the time,
Yeah.
53 or something,
Yeah.
54%. On a success with fear,
Which means you're going to be using experiences, we assume, relatively often.
correct, and whatever else, hope. Oh, hope is also used to help allies.
Right.
Yeah. So it feels like it's going to be a limited resource, but it's going to come back a lot faster than other games. Now, granted, if this was Forbidden Lands right now, we'd be talking about I'm just gonna hope spam. But
We don't have to in this game because everything you do does it.
on a success with fear, you get what you want, but it comes at a cost or consequence. So this is our partial success.
Which is funny because you still succeeded.
Oh, you succeeded. Yes.
This isn't a failure.
Yes. You might get attacked. You gain limited information. You attract danger. And the GM gains a fear.
Right. So that's the GM resource. We're assuming it's like threat for now.
Yes.
Yes, that's interesting. I wonder.
And by the way, remember, roughly 50% of the time when you succeed, it'll be with hope. And roughly 50% of the time, it will be fear.
Yeah. So does that mean on average you're more fucked than usual? I mean, most groups would be
what-
fine,
what-
but you're my game master.
So, yeah,
which means if I succeed on a fear, that means like the ship's going to explode.
I mean, it does say attract danger.
Right. Of
It does-
course.
and it
Right.
does say
You'll
you
use
might-
that for justification.
And it does say you might get attacked.
Yeah. We're landing our spaceship and we succeed, so it explodes.
Well, okay. So this is the first thing I've noticed here.
And you get fear.
Well, I guess the question is, right? Think about PBTA. PBTA is designed that the majority of your results are going to be 7, 8s, and 9s.
True.
It's designed to push you towards.
So this might be more of a consequence of the dice mechanics.
Yeah. So what this is taking is it's taking the PBTA range.
Yeah.
Which is 7 to infinite.
Yeah.
And 10 or higher is your success with hope.
Yeah.
And a 7, 8, or 9 is your success with fear. But instead of making it literally half your range and half your range, but it's the higher half of your range,
Right.
it's just making it the whole range and then
Every
randomizing
other.
it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same outcome.
Okay.
We had a super chat from Vin. He says, I wonder if the undercarriage is destroyed or not. I don't know what that
Is that a ship joke? Are you running off of my ship?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what he means. Vin, what do you mean by undercarriage?
So I just was looking up the fear really quickly, but it says like you can spend fear in a variety of ways, most often to augment a GM move you're already making. If you don't have fear to spend, while the action tracker is active, you can always convert 2 character tokens on an action tracker to 1 fear. But it says when you spend fear, you can do something big, tick a countdown, use an adversarial
So
fear
this is
move,
something I do remember reading.
stuff like that. Additional D6 damage dice.
So on a failure with hope, things didn't go to plan. You probably don't get what you want and must face the consequences. Gain a hope. So you gain a hope on a failure with hope too.
Yeah,
and then a failure with fear, things go really bad. You probably don't get what you want, and there is a major complication, and the GM gains
So
fear.
that's 5.
So
I
you
do
have,
like the language there, though. You're not guaranteed to not.
it says you. Well, no, I read this.
I mean, it's very much like PBTA.
I read this very much as PBTA.
But a lot of people get that part wrong.
Right, where when it says miss, GM makes a move, I could say you succeed,
Right.
and also this horrible thing, or but this horrible thing.
Right.
That is my call.
Yeah.
The decision, what happens at that point, falls to me.
I like that a lot, obviously, and for the same reason. Like, because
I think this is
we
why you're
don't,
landing the ship joke.
He says this. He
Or
said
not
this
joke,
was
but-
indeed a reference to a spaceship. Undercarriage is the name for landing gear.
Okay, that's where I thought he was going.
Okay.
But like this prevents the game from like you fail and nothing happens, and now we're bored.
But how many successes are in PBTA? There's
3.
3.
I mean, standard PBTA. Magpie
This is
introduced the idea
5.
of like the critical hit, but
Yeah.
So that's 4, and this is saying
I mean,
5
it-
conditions.
It's basically 5. You get success. You get success with a bonus. Success with a cost. You get failure with a bonus, and you get failure with a consequence.
So Spot Top says something interesting because I wasn't thinking about it. I think my FU was getting in the way. Any double.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, for some reason in my mind, I was thinking you still had to like hit.
Oh no. That's why I said you have an 8% chance of
Yeah.
critting. Yeah. It's just any double.
Because like in FU, you have to be 6 or higher.
Correct.
Someone said 6.9 in the chat percent chance.
No, he says yes.
Yeah. So double
0.69?
ones.
0.69.
Yes,
correct.
0.69% chance is the result. Is the chance that you roll any set of doubles.
Okay.
But there's 12 sets of doubles.
Right.
So multiply 0.69 by 12.
Cool.
So that's kind of cool because you roll a double 2s. It's a crit.
Yeah. Good job.
It's kind of hot.
Yeah.
I like it. And it's so easy. Did I crit? Look at your dice.
It gives me a chance to crit now.
That's right.
Double ones.
Double ones. I can do that all day. Hell, you guys saw that in FL.
That
double
was-
ones. I could do 8 ones.
To be fair, you weren't at the session where everybody died and literally people rolled like 14 dice and got no success.
Whose dice were they rolling?
That's true. They were rolling your dice.
Oh, that is right. Tim was rolling your dice when he boned those rolls. I just got 2 more subscribers, Sput
I
Top
don't know.
and Rexor. Oh, I thought they actually had to subscribe.
I mean, they're subscribed. They're not channel members.
Oh, no. I thought that means they subscribe to the channel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm just saying.
And Split Top is right there in chat
Yeah.
too. So
yeah,
welcome
so they
to
can
the
use
channel.
emojis. They get to use emojis. They're adventures, right?
That's what I'm saying.
That's
They're not.
adventure.
Oh, that's what's throwing me off. They just subscribe to
They
the
are part of the
channel.
10K.
It's awesome that they are joined the channel.
Now I'm so I thought that was getting the emojis being an
No,
adventure.
no,
That's adventure.
I was like, this is really cool. They're like
that's
joining
a
up.
sponsorship.
Got it.
Got it.
My apologies.
You can still say thank you and welcome.
I mean, I do thank
Clicking
them.
that button
But
is
you
a
were
big
basically
deal.
like,
I was like,
enjoy the emojis. I was like,
I'm
what
like,
about
yeah,
they
you
don't-
get the emojis
They don't get the
now.
emojis.
They don't get the emojis.
You don't get the emoji. I apologize.
But they can comment because you have to be a subscriber to comment.
Right.
Okay.
Oh.
So This is a lot more narrative currency than you would normally ever see in a D&D game. And now you don't have to fudge, because now if you're Matt Mercer and you're playing Critical Role or with your Critical Role buddies and they roll low with fear, you could say, you succeed, but it's everything that you wish it wasn't.
Right.
And that's
Matt Mercer's going to have a field day with this.
This is the kind of stuff that we wanted to see out of Critical.
Yeah. And now they can do it.
And it's also where because again, the classic GM dilemma, and you should be asking yourself this at any time. Whenever you ask for a dice roll in a standard game, you have to accept the fact that it's random, regardless of modifiers. And there is a 20%, 30%, 40% chance that this will go not the way you want it to, or not the way that anybody thinks it's going to go. And if you're not playing in a game that has these kind of understanding, then you're going to be forced to either be like, oh, yep, this whole real shitty thing happens, or you're going to be forced to fudge.
Right.
And then at that point, what are we even doing here?
Which isn't fudging's problem, but that happening in a game isn't a problem if you're playing the game the way the game's supposed to be played.
And if everyone that's the kind of experience that they want. Oh man, it was awesome. Like I thought we were going to kill the ogre, and then the last instant, I rolled a 2. He crit
Everyone's
me.
dead.
Everyone's dead. You know?
Yeah, that's funny. We laugh.
And that was a great experience.
But if that's a $9 million a month Twitch stream show, then you're going to get, your even wealthier version of Steven pinging you after show going, what did you do? I can't believe, Mercer, how could you kill everyone?
In the beginning, I mean, super minor spoilers, but in the beginning of this campaign,
three,
very early on.
Oh, did they have a death?
They had like 2 deaths, and it looked like it was going to be death. And the internets people were like, how dare you?
Right.
I was
they buy like shirts for their favorite character.
I was invested in that character, and I wanted to see their arc, and you robbed me of seeing that character's arc. And it was like this real just, Did
they come back?
Well, never kill a character again.
Okay, so damage rolls. Whenever you make a successful attack, roll a number of weapon dice equal to your proficiency and add them together.
Where are we at?
We're on damage rolls.
So this is where the proficiency comes in.
This is what that proficiency means. Proficiency is not accuracy.
Which now,
damage.
thinking about the threshold system, that makes sense.
Right. So this is very Shades of 13th Age. I don't know that you'll get to 10 weapon dice, but in 13th Age, your max level's 10, and you roll 1 weapon die per level.
Yeah.
Get them dice ready.
So 2d10, 3d10, 4d10.
Well, like if you're a skilled fighter, you're gonna stab someone better than a wizard. You're gonna get through that threshold.
You
quicker.
get up to 6 weapon dice. That seems a little high.
Well, we don't know how high thresholds get to though.
Yeah, but no, I'm saying just the math. I hate the idea of adding 6 numbers together off of 6 dice. That's like Pathfinder 2 levels, where it's like, oh, I'm rolling a d6 and a d6 and 3d12, plus I have this brilliant energy rune that's giving me a d4.
So this could actually be bad because
I don't know that I like that.
Well, it's actually worse because
unless it's like
you still have a check. I assume you're making a check against evasion to hit.
Yes.
And then so that's rolling, adding, comparing.
Right.
Then you're going to roll, add, and compare to threshold.
To be fair, the GM is adding, comparing to. Assuming the monsters work the same way, but yeah, I just don't like.
I'm just saying you're doing. Well, it's like Warhammer. We're doing. What is it? Weapon skill and toughness.
Weapon skill versus weapon skill, strength versus toughness, and then armor save. But I guess
we haven't got an armor.
I guess my thing here is that like, after doing so much work to try to keep math processing to a minimum,
this is weird.
Rolling 5 dice or 6 dice, what are you rolling? 6d8 plus added together? That seems like that'd be a pain in the ass.
Yeah, I mean by the time that happens, I guess you're at a high level campaign. What does it mean? The time?
No, like that's not it's just as hard to add 6d8 when you're level 1 as it is when you're. Well,
you won't be doing that at level 1, right?
But I'm saying, why does it become easier to add 6d8 when you're level 20? It does not.
I'm just thinking
actually, if anything, people's ability to do math got worse the longer we played. I mean, I like rolling lots of dice.
I guess
but that it just seems counterintuitive for everything else that they're doing.
I mean, obviously, you need a way for damage to scale.
Sure.
It just feels like that is very clunky. I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. When you roll fireball, you roll.
Yeah, but that's a fireball every time you attack.
Yeah.
How many fireballs do I cast? Twice, 2 a night?
Yeah, I guess. But I don't know. It doesn't seem that bad just yet.
I mean, AKL says it best. He says, math bad, but rolling big handfuls, good. Yeah. But the thing is, like, when everything is rolling a big handful, it's kind of like, it's tough,
Yeah. And it's just weird given everything else.
Well, and Gabe says how long before you start rolling averages. That's exactly what 13th Age told you to do. At 13th Age, when you're level 9 or 10 and you're rolling 10d10 for your damage plus bonuses, it just said just roll 2d10 and then take the 8d10, average that out to 45. And now you're rolling 2d10 plus 45. Anyways,
Okay.
because rolling 8d10 and adding it up, that is ridiculous amount of work. Yeah. Also, the more dice you roll, the more that you become central limited. So when you roll 2d10, there's still a lot of volatility. When you roll 8d10 or 6d10, you're going to everything's going to be very close to the average.
Unless you're me, and it'll be close.
And you got to think too, if they're doing this on camera, right?
Yeah.
And so he rolls the dice like 6 plus 6 and then 7,
right. So
and it's like, whoa.
You can imagine it. You can imagine you roll it. You're like 20 with hope, and he's like, you hit him, roll your damage, and it's like,
and you're
all
like,
right, 7.
Does Critical roll dice?
12.
oh yeah, oh yeah. They have dice
They
jail.
still roll dice?
Yeah, real dice.
yeah.
Okay, because I know they have iPads. I didn't know.
No, I mean they do have those, but they roll the
roll real
dice.
dice.
They have little dice trays by Wormwood and everything.
And also, like, for example, tip of advice to anybody out there. I see this all the time. When you roll dice, okay, you are just making it slower for yourself. Just add the numbers up as you find the dice. I used to watch.
People like to make 10s.
People make 10s.
oh, I do the 10s.
I know you do the 10s, and
It's way easier in my head.
And Holloway does the 10s.
Holloway does
and
the 10s
a bunch
too.
of people do 10s. And I go, you are wasting more time trying to group 10s as if we were playing fucking 7th C and you're looking
Just
for
because
raises.
you could do
burning
math
more
faster than
electricity.
us.
No, but I'm saying, but you're not saving any time. Just add the numbers together.
They're not
You
doing it
could
for
do
time
math
savings.
faster.
They're doing it because they add it that
All
way.
right, well,
Yeah, that's how we add faster in our heads.
That's-
you add. You're Rain
that's how
Man
you
over
act.
here.
I'm not Rain Man. I can add. I'm. You know what? I passed 2nd grade. That's what. That's
Well, not everyone did there.
all right. That's fair.
Some people joined our Patreon.
I'm loving AKL. He says they roll dice and half the time they can't read them because they use the fancy ones that
This-
they got gifted.
oh,
This is actually true. So now imagine that plus 7 or 8 of these dice.
Yeah.
That part doesn't seem good
So-
for camera.
If the attack was a critical success, you take the maximum potential value of all your damage dice added together
All right.
and add it as a modifier to your damage roll.
Wait,
What?
Wait. If the attack roll was a
I have
critical
no idea what that
success, so
means.
boom, boom, 6/6. Take the maximum potential value of all your damage dice. So that'd be like if they maxed out every one.
I guess. Or maybe it means like if you roll D10s, you're adding a 10. If you're rolling D8s, you add an 8. If you're rolling
But
D6s,
it
you add
says
a 7.
of all your damage dice.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you can have different
Add it
damage dice.
together. So it's a
Awesome
super crit.
Oh, so it's 100% plus up to another 100%.
Got it. So it's like 4E with a magic weapon.
Yes, but the magic weapon does as much damage as the weapon did.
Got it. Awesome says it's a popular house rule in 5E.
So like
Okay.
instead of doubling, well, no.
No,
Yeah.
it's no. It's double. Well, it's double damage, but you can the minimum that you can do
It's 100%.
No, it's like 105%.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because you're gonna get something from the dice. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like it. Because that's the worst feeling in the world. Everyone
Oh,
knows
if you
that.
just- oh, you just
when you
roll
crit and you
terrible.
roll 1 and a 2
Yeah.
on your D12 and you just want to fucking kill yourself.
Yeah.
I'll say this: they made crits sweet.
I mean, that was how they worked in 4th edition. Max.
So you would just write
'cause
that number down.
This is max plus.
Well,
Yeah.
no, but in 4th edition you added a weapon die depending on
Yeah,
the
you got your
what you're running.
enhancement.
That wasn't nothing.
I mean, yeah, I guess you'd add 60-10.
You could have 60-10.
I'm just saying this specifically is like, get between 105 to 200% damage
I mean,
on
Brian-
top of
okay,
your hope,
Brian-
on top of your
That's
stress.
what Brian says. What I said.
Yeah, Brian, I mean, look, I'm not, no, you were saying it becomes faster at higher level. I think it doesn't. What Brian is saying, yes, and maybe you're
I think
only
you
doing
just got
that.
used to
you're
it.
only doing that for the last couple levels of the game. Because if we go back to the levels, you can increase your proficiency once in levels 2 through 4.
Okay.
So that means the
at
most
fifth
you're
le-
going to
at fourth level, you're
rolling
rolling
2.
dice.
You have a
Yeah.
striking rune. And then at levels 5 through 7,
Looks like you can do twice.
looks like you can do it twice. And then at levels 8 through 10, you can add it twice.
Okay.
So there is it does keep it.
This game only go to 10.
Yeah, it only goes to 10.
Okay.
So I like that. It still technically maybe is a problem later on, but I mean, we're being nitpicky here, but I'm telling you, this stuff matters. And like when
no.
when you're,
I think I agree with you. It does matter, and it is just. I mean, we have to keep going.
I mean,
but it is weird given everything else.
yeah, agreed.
Right.
I do like
Sticks out.
I do again the critical hit when you roll low on the damage. I hate that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
No, that's
horrible.
nice fix.
So this is very nice.
They did a great job of crits. Yeah.
So
Okay.
using armor. When you are attacked, if you are taking damage, you may mark armor slots to reduce the amount by your armor score. Multiple armor slots may be marked to reduce the damage further.
So I'm trying to translate this. Does this mean
Got it. Okay, I get it.
damage roll before we determine threshold?
So let's go back up to our armor. Let's say we have that full plate, which has an armor value of 9.
Right.
Now let's go all the way back up to our character sheet, and we know that we have 3 armor boxes. All the way at the top of the sheet.
Yeah, I got it.
So anytime we take damage, we can mark an armor box to subtract 9 from the damage.
Right.
If you have full plate, you're saying.
If we have full plate.
Okay.
And we
The
could
wizard gets breastplate.
and the wizard plus plate 5.
Yeah.
And we could do that multiple times in one damage roll. So if you had full plate at 9, you could mark 2 boxes and take off 18. Then
So by default, it doesn't take off?
anything.
Oh, so
You
the
have to mark this
default
armor
is
box.
You
not
have to
damage
use your
reduction.
You have to use your
Got
armor
it.
as a resource. And you can
Huh.
see that there is, when you level up, one of the things that you can choose is to get more boxes of
I was
armor.
going to ask, what determines your armor boxes? Interesting. So the armor determines
How much it
value,
absorbs.
but it's your
Skill.
skill that determines how much you can use your armor.
And that's where you can see in levels 2 through 4. By the way, what's real? No, you know what I really like about it? Check it out. Look at levels 2 through 4, 5 through 7. The armor slot is on the same level as the evasion slot. You can't take both. You either have to increase your armor or you have to increase your evasion. So you might have a character who takes evasion.
Man, their armor's just shit.
And their armor does they still just got the 3 boxes they started the game with, but now their evasion is 5 higher.
Right.
So the evasion is the target number I'm trying to hit?
I'm guessing.
Okay.
I don't
that's what I was
know.
We're
trying
not
to
sure.
do.
We haven't gotten that far.
We're not
Okay.
sure.
It sounds like that's what AC is in this.
Yeah.
We don't know yet, Van.
Van, we do not know. Van
At this
asking-
point, you guys know as much as we do. Actually,
Yeah.
most of you probably know
Yeah,
more
most of
because
you
you guys
probably know.
probably read this
Yeah.
before today.
On the bias now, how do you get armor slots back? I don't know. But
Someone said that you can do like repair out of combat or something or something.
Kevin is
I don't hate that.
yeah, I don't hate that. That's actually real
No,
because you know why? I'm telling you, that'll feel good at the
It
table.
will feel good.
It will feel very good
Also,
at the
I
table.
love like
Yes.
downtime repair loops, camps,
Correct.
stuff like that.
But I also like
I like feeling dirty.
Also using your armor, like that's a really interesting choice. Like I could if I use my armor right now, that would reduce it from a major to a minor.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, I'm gonna snap that
Jackal
off.
says repair 2 armor slots during a short rest.
Oh, yeah.
Or
We're about
and then
to
you
get
can
to
repair,
downtime,
I assume, more in long rest.
So no, I'm just saying like that's a really
Yeah.
I like that.
That's a very cool system. And I can also love the idea of that, like me building up towards my armor. By the way, again, remember,
Oh, so shields, because like what do shields do?
Yeah.
Shields add to that armor score.
Correct.
So yeah, if you got plate armor and a shield, that's 11 you're taking off.
correct. Oh, a plate armor and a tower shield, you're taking off 13.
Yeah.
That's a lot. And then when you take up an extra armor slot, you now have 4 armor boxes. You know, and maybe you're the character that already has the higher damage thresholds.
Yeah.
That's a pretty cool way to tank.
Yeah.
And here's why. It also feels, you know what that really reminds me of? Resistance rolls from Blades in the Dark. See, the thing about resistance rolls, this is something I've always said like that D&D was missing. In Blades in the Dark, and I'm telling you, this is such a powerful feel at the table. In Blades in the Dark, the GM lays out before you the horrible consequence that your character is about to endure.
You got shot in the head and you're bleeding out.
You got shot in the head and you're bleeding out in the street. Then, in a moment of power, you say, no, I'm going to resist that.
Right.
I'm going to take stress. And my awesome, cool scoundrel twists away at the last minute. And it's like, yeah, it just clips your shoulder. And it's like, oh, cool.
And any GM who's ever had a new player at their D&D table knows that the worst feeling is the first time that orc goes to swing at that person, they go, hey, leap out of the way. And so far, they've made checks, they've done cool things, they've played role-playing games like, this is amazing, I love it. I leap out of the way. And now all of a sudden, D&D goes, nope, you can't do that. Stand there and take it like a man.
Well, not only that, but it also solves one of our biggest issues. Where you have the character who's got the full plate and has the tower shield, and then they're hit, and it's like they're wearing cloth.
D&D has this problem. I had that problem in a few.
I rolled high enough. My armor means nothing.
Right. Just goes right through.
And it feels bad.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, forget any sort of simulationism.
Yeah.
It just is a bad experience.
Yeah.
You're like, I chose this armor.
Right.
And I get it. You're like, well, in D&D, it's like, well, that makes your AC higher. I get it. But the fact that it's random means that you could very easily get hit twice in a row.
Yeah.
And it just feels like, okay, what am I even doing?
What am I
here?
doing?
Yeah.
I like this because it feels like if you really care about armor, you can
could spec into
get
it.
heavy into it.
Yeah, I agree.
And then be like, oh yeah, no, I can take fucking
we're not
hits.
even know. I mean, these domain powers might have things that have to do with
100%.
armor.
This is just a base chassis, right?
The warrior has blade and bone as his 2 domains. So who
makes
knows?
new bones.
Okay, quick reference. Advantage which we have not really discussed how you get it, but it adds a D6 die to your action roll.
Interesting.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess
They're going with the boon system.
Well, the couple things here. It is not advantage and disadvantage. It is boons and banes.
But it's adding more dice.
It's not Dragon Bane boons and banes.
No.
It's Shadows of the Demon Lord boons and banes.
So you're rolling a 2d12 and then you're adding a d6.
2d12 plus d6.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, anyone who's played 5th edition is already very familiar with this because they're used to bless and inspiration,
Guidance
bardic
is
inspiration,
one, bardic
guidance inspiration, bardic inspiration.
Yeah.
So you're used to that kind of d20 plus a bonus
Which
die.
that's awesome. That's like my second favorite mechanic in 5e because it's a very tactile experience, right? I like having the bard die, the blessed die.
More or less, Tori, we have not seen anything about this. We are literally just looking at this right
Yeah,
now.
the only thing we saw was like months and months ago when they just announced it was a
when they announced it was a 2d12.
duality, whatever that meant.
Yeah.
This is really the first we're looking at it.
So disadvantage is the same thing. I don't know if they stack or whatever the situation is. Help an ally. Spend a hope and roll a d6 advantage die to add to the ally's action roll.
Cool.
If multiple PCs want to help, yeah, good. They each spend hope and roll d6 and you take the highest. So that is literally boons from Shadows of the Demon Lord.
Yeah.
Except only didn't get help. And that is awesome.
Yeah.
That is the best way to do that ever. I mean, obviously they're taking that mechanic from Shadows of the Demon Lord because it works really, really
I think
well.
that was listed as an inspiration.
What's that?
I don't think that was listed as an inspiration.
Shadow is a demon lord? No.
Yeah. I mean,
Shadow Run was listed. I think.
Shadowrun.
but
Maybe they
not
got
Shadows of the Demon Lord.
maybe they got the thing wrong there. It wasn't Shadowrun, it was Shadows of the Demon Lord. No, but that is very much to my mind. That is Shadows.
I
of
like
the
that
Demon.
a lot because that's not nothing.
It's not nothing.
D6 on a 2d12 system is really good.
It's good,
but
it costs something.
It costs something, and it's
it
not
doesn't.
broken.
And the game doesn't break when 3 people go help.
Right.
And you're like, okay, cool. So I'm adding 18.
Right. No, just
You know,
not. So there's still a reason to do it, but it's the decision now. We have to be like, how important is this role?
Right. Also, I don't know when you can add. I wonder what the timing is on that help, because God love me, I would love it to be after the roll. You miss, and then the players can spend hope to roll the.
It probably is. I'm sure we'll see as we get there.
So we'll see. All right, tag team roll.
Oh boy.
Each player can choose one time per session. So this is ultimate.
Oh boy.
To spend 3 hope and initiate a tag. What the fuck is this move?
Tag team move.
Where the fuck did this come from?
All right, we need a better verb here. Their verbiage has been spot on.
Bob.
You guys tag team?
The little DBZ there.
Little DBZ, RIP.
We fusioned.
To what is his name? Aria, or what's his name?
I don't know his name.
The creator?
The
He just
creator
died.
that passed away.
Each
I
player-
almost wanted to start watching Dragon Ball again.
Fastball special. Each player can choose one time per session to spend 3 hope and initiate a tag team move with another PC. When you do, work with your chosen partner to describe how you 2 characters combine their actions in a unique and exciting way.
Oh, boy.
Both you and your partner make separate action rolls, but before resolving the roll's outcome, choose one of the rolls to apply
Jesus
for both of
Christ.
your results.
This is one of those things that someone on Team Mercer got super excited about, and they couldn't articulate
No, you know
well,
what this is?
and no one's going to use this.
This is like super advantage, because basically you're getting roll twice and take the better.
Sure.
So
the
I
name's
like.
horrible.
I think it's
Oh, the name is
Oh,
horrible.
the name is bad.
Okay, I'll say this. Listen, we are very nitpicky critics with the terminology.
Yes.
MC, DM, RPG scored low because it felt like they were just randomly using words just to make it different. These guys so far scored really high. We like the words. Duality's a little.
I don't mind it.
Yeah, but it's okay. It's at least appropriate.
Fear it. At least it is a duality.
But in general, I'll be like, yeah. These are good names. These are good names, right? Tag team. All right, fix that one.
That one's got to be
But
fixed.
also, I mean, it sounds cool and whatnot, and in theory, it sounds cool, but it feels like it's out of nowhere.
It feels like we're about to Eiffel Tower or split roasted orc or something.
But it just-
all right, Bob, let's go.
it just feels like
Let's make that half work.
this hasn't been anything that we've been seeing coming up to this.
Going up to the tag team just seems completely out of exactly. Who doesn't love a good tag team? I will say this though. You know what it is really cool for? That cinematic moment.
Yeah.
Where the warrior charges at the enemy.
Yeah.
And the wizard just, and again, you describe.
Yeah.
I've got my staff of fire.
regular
and I-
Lotus War. I will protect the
Right.
shield,
Well,
protect
yeah.
the war as
Yeah,
he
yeah.
climbs the stairs.
Yeah, or as you charge in, I begin weaving my spells, and leaps of fire begin to circle around the
100%.
warrior, and the warrior leaps into the air with a gout of flame trailing behind him, and then you hit, and we both roll,
Right.
and then we
And it's
both
super
use,
advantage,
and we both
yeah.
use the highest result,
Yeah.
and by
That's
the way,
great.
in that
It-
world,
it's
you have like you have almost like a 15 or 16% chance to crit if
Yeah.
you're using both of your rolls.
Yeah.
So
you know what's on the show?
actually, no, it's higher than that. It's like 18%.
They'll
chance to
probably make it sweet. Like Critical
Oh,
will
yeah,
make
well,
this
Oh,
actually
no, no,
really
no.
cool.
The action's great. They just need to change the name.
The name, we like the
change the name.
action. I just think the name is dumb.
Just change the name.
Yeah, I don't know what you do though, because it is sort
I
of
mean, I
like
agree, Kevin. I think you're right. I think, especially these games that are supposed to be teamwork related, a lot of times it doesn't feel that way. It feels like you're just off doing your own thing.
Yeah. This could be really cool.
So, vulnerable, a condition that allows.
I hope there are more mechanics that tie into this sort of thing later.
I agree.
Because that's the other thing
if
too.
the thing is, it is each player can choose one time per session. So that means you, the initiator of the tag team, can only do it once per session. So theoretically, you can.
Ryan says they already do this in the show, so it makes sense that it's in here as a mechanic.
I mean, self-confessed
So I did-
cynic. Yes, it should be called a teamwork roll or
Something.
a teamwork attack or something. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be an attack.
Fusion powers unite.
Fusion power is activated. Vulnerable creature has a condition that allows any rolls to be made at advantage. Okay.
Okay, so that's something.
Restrained, can't move. Temporary. When a spell or condition is temporary, it means the GM can end it by spending fear. So I wonder if that's how duration is tracked.
Interesting.
Like this buff will last. It has a temporary tag
Until you get rid of it?
until the GM chooses to get rid of it, but I have to spend my fear.
Oh, that's interesting. It's a way to like tax the GM so you can't just hoard it up all the time.
Right.
Because if the GM wants to play that, that's fine. I'll just keep haste.
And then you kind of like, you're like, okay, I'll keep my haste,
Sounds
but
good.
you keep your fear. But then it's a fun like meta game.
I like that.
I like it.
I hope that plays out that way.
I hope it plays out that way too.
Now that we've said it out loud, hopefully it plays out that way.
Yeah. Okay. So downtime. Downtime represents moments of respite within the perilous journey player characters are on together. It is not only an opportunity to recover and prepare for what lies ahead, but also a time to share more quiet, intimate scenes. So it's a what is it?
Campfire?
A campfire scene. What's it called in Fabula Ultima?
I don't know.
Interlude.
Yeah.
Is that the term?
I think.
I can't remember the term. Where you build bonds.
Yeah.
In Fabula Ultima.
I keep wanting to call it a narrative scene, but I think you're right. I think
No, they get like a narrative scene is like where the GM gets to montage.
montage.
Yeah. Or maybe it's just resting scene. Okay, yeah, resting.
Yeah. Beach episode.
Yes.
Kevin, that's actually what popped in my
I was
mind
like, this
first.
would be the bath scene. It
would be the bath scene, 100%.
The bath scene.
God, the bath scene.
Gotta have the bath scene. It is not only a moment to recover and prepare for what lies ahead, but also a time to share more quiet, intimate scenes that help build or showcase the relationships our character has. So this is very much
different kind of intimate than tag teaming the org.
Yes, correct. Short rest. Now, there's no time here noted, so I'm assuming that this might be, I mean, again, this is just the cheat sheet. There's 300 pages of rules.
Sure.
But I wonder, I'm hoping, I'm theorizing
I'm guessing time's abstract.
that time is fairly abstract here.
Yeah.
You know?
Like you'd have enough time to do the things, but it's not specified otherwise.
Each player may swap, like I could see, and I've always felt really good about this, especially when it comes to like 4th edition, which was always kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? It was like, well, it's about 5 minutes, but it's a little bit vague.
Yeah.
You know that scene in Lord of the Rings in the middle of the siege of Minas Tirith? Gandalf and Pippin are in the
I love
city.
that scene. It's great.
And, they're fighting orcs and killing.
Yeah.
And then there's that brief moment.
Yeah, they're just talking.
And that's where Gandalf tells them about, like, no, this is not the end.
Yeah.
The land of swift sunrise.
Clearing stress.
And that doesn't sound so good. You can have these little moments, even in the middle, quote unquote, of a combat.
Yeah.
That allow you to take a short rest, and it feels so cool to have those moments.
I love it.
And so I think that's said right. So,
I actually feel like 5th edition kind of screwed the pooch by making it an hour long.
and More or Less Story says they say that shorts equal about an hour. I would throw that out. I would totally allow it be like a narrative thing. Okay, but in any case, we'll see what they do. But you tend to wounds. Describe how you temporarily patch yourself up and clear 1d4 hit points.
Oh, so actually,
you may choose to do this to an ally instead. Oh wait,
before
I
you
skipped
jump
the
into this, this is also where you can change your loadout, which is cool.
Each player may swap any number of domain cards in their loadout. Well, it really is called the loadout.
Yeah, and the vault. It is the vault.
For domain
so-
cards
See,
in their
vault,
vault.
crushing it. Tag team. That goes back into the vault.
Okay.
But I like that.
So respec.
You have to choose 2 of these options. You don't get all of them.
Oh, then choose 2.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
so you're
okay.
making a decision here.
Yeah, that's very cool.
And so this is for me is like
it's agency.
typically when you're comparative narrative games and crunchy games, it comes down to is what types of decisions are you making, where are you going to make them, right?
Yes.
Narrative games typically are lots of like emotional and fictional decisions, right? What's going to happen with my character, and typically very light on mechanical choices, which is often why like I enjoy those games, but they don't last long for me, right? And then D&D is typically the opposite, right? So I like a game here. It's going even in downtime, you're making interesting choices, right? Because I love things like the game. This is a video game based off Torchbearer.
Darkest Dungeon.
Darkest Dungeon, right? They have a camp scene, right? And I love camping in Torchbearer. You got to use marks. It felt a little weird.
Checks, but yes.
Checks, but it works.
Yeah, that you had to earn checks, but yes, I get you.
And Darkest Dungeon, you just got 2.
Right.
But I like that because it's like, okay, we're camping. What am I going to do? How am I going to get ready to get back out there?
Correct.
And making decisions, both mechanical and narrative, is extremely appealing to me.
Right. Because you don't want to just do the one or the other.
Right.
Otherwise, it's just fluffy bullshit time.
But most games are one or the other.
It's one or the other. So you can clear 1d4 hit points, or and again, remember, the game is on a 6 hit point system.
Right.
Or you could choose to do it to an ally.
I kind of like that.
Clear stress. Describe how you blow off steam or pull yourself together. Clear 1d4 stress. Repair armor.
Yeah.
Describe how you quickly spend your time clearing your armor and clear 2 used armor slots. You may choose to do this to an ally's armor instead. So this, you know why this is all nice?
That's nice.
If you did your job, tank, and you took a ton of damage, and you took a ton of hits, and your armor's fucked up, and you've got a bunch of hit points, and you even have some stress, and the reason you did that is because you were protecting me.
Right.
Now I can use my
I don't need to rest.
I can use my camp slots to help you out.
Right.
You know, you could describe how the wizard
Because you don't have to recover any hit
I'm
points.
the wizard. I have prestidigitation. You know, I describe how I cast a spell of metal mending.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm waving my hand over your armor.
Yeah,
and
I like that.
And
That's
the plates are starting to, like, you know, almost liquefy under my touch and reassemble into a full plate. You know. Yeah. Because it's like that. It's like that resource trade. You know.
Yeah. I am a sucker.
This next one, I think you'll like.
Structured downtime scenes.
And then this is straight out of fucking
this is Smith,
Dark
right?
Winter.
This is a
prepare.
Smith thing.
Describe how you prepare yourself for head and gain hope.
Yeah.
And that's right up your alley.
I love that shit.
Yeah.
I mean, again, hope is a resource that you get from randomly,
but also
it's capped at 5.
So also, like, a lot of people just go into fights these days. Like, the idea of like coming up with a strategy, preparing for the adventure ahead is really cool.
Yeah.
a lot of these games are starting to do that.
Well,
and I think
there's also an element here of the prepare that feels a little bit Blades in the Dark.
Don't overthink it.
Don't overthink it.
Yeah.
Like, how are you preparing? Well, all right, so here's what I'm going to do. We know that it's like, well, yes, we could do that, but also just gain a hope, and then you can use it to do something awesome later on.
Honestly,
I
I could see a group taking it either way.
a little
this,
FBT though with it.
Yeah.
It gives you something mechanical, but doesn't necessarily exclude
Well,
something
no,
like that.
this game does seem to respect the fiction.
Yeah.
And so whenever you talk about preparing and stuff, fiction can come up.
Yeah.
All right, so then we have long rest.
Okay.
Each player may swap any number of domain cards in their loadout for domain cards in their vault. Then choose 2 of the options
Oh, so
below.
even a long rest, you are limited to what you
You can
do.
tend to your wounds and completely recover all hit points.
Yep.
And you can do this to an ally.
That's pretty cool.
You can clear all your stress
Yep.
by blowing off your steam, aka indulge vice.
Indulge vice.
Indulge vice.
I don't think you could clear it all.
You can. The most you can,
It's not guaranteed. You don't clear
It's
it
random.
all.
Yeah, it is random.
That's what I'm saying. Here's you're
You could
clearing it all.
theoretically use both your downtime actions to double indulge vice, and I have seen people do that.
Oh, 100%.
Repair armor, clear it all.
Yep.
Prepare. Describe how you're preparing for the next day's adventure, then gain hope. If you choose to prepare with 1 or more members of your party, you may each take 2 hope.
Oh, okay.
So if
I like
multiple people choose to prepare,
Yeah.
and by the way, this is setting up a reward cycle.
Yeah.
Because the group that plays well,
Yeah.
that performs well,
gonna have more time to
is
prepare.
not going to have to tend to their wounds.
Yes.
They're not going to have to clear their
Yes.
stress. They're not going to have to repair their armor. They can all prepare and gain 2 hope.
And see, now we're introducing in what might look like a fairly, I don't call it combat-like because I do say there's a lot of fighting, but like a tactically like game. You're still introducing mechanics to play the game well.
Right.
And that's awesome.
It's not just namby-pamby.
Right.
It doesn't matter what you do because the PCs are going to win. This is like we talk about in 4th edition, where if you play it right and you can conserve those healing surges, then that gives you an advantage. This is very much this. And then, by the way, the last one is straight out of Blades in the Dark.
Straight Blades in the Dark. Yeah.
Work on a
this
project.
is what I spent on my time on.
It even says tick down on the completion track.
I was like, tick down. That's a clock.
So establish or continue work on a project. The GM might ask for a roll to determine how much to tick down on the completion track. And we love long-term projects.
Yeah.
from Blades in the
I'm
Dark.
just thinking here, like that could be like crafting a scroll, right? You know, whatever, right? Like,
yeah, and for anybody who doesn't know, Blades in the Dark, when you complete a score, you have an opportunity to take 2 downtime actions, and one of them is work on a long-term project. So, for example, when we were playing Scum and Villainy, which is a sort of a Firefly sci-fi-esque game, Aaron's character was sort of an ex-Marine, and he was trying in his off time between jobs to salvage and put together a sort of Marine exosuit, you know, which are like, you know, obviously.
I just want to play Space Marines.
He just
Whenever
wanted
we
to be
do
a Space
sci-fi, I just want to be a Space Marine.
Right. So you were a Space Marine, you just didn't have the armor because that's obviously a very precious thing. So you kind of built your own custom one over the course of many
This is
sessions.
what I spent all of my time and money doing.
Right.
And when I got it, it was amazing.
And then they got it, and they finally were like, hey, you know that you know that gang that's been messing with us? Let's go do a boarding action on their ship. And then Aaron's character just, he just mowed everybody down.
So like most times when we talk about Space Marines, it's always in context of them fighting like a Chaos War or something like that. Like when it's a Space Marine fighting like shitty peasants, smugglers.
They were just smugglers, scoundrels.
They're just. I mean, it's just
Han Solo, and you just came in with a mech suit.
Right.
Yeah, and it went exactly as you would think it would. It was amazing.
Right. It was the Mos Eisley Katina, except the guy comes in as like a.
I don't even think it was like a drawn out encounter. I think Derek literally made it a check.
I made it one check for you.
I mean,
to kill like 7 dudes.
Well, no,
I don't know why I wouldn't.
Yeah,
a Space Marine would just destroy people.
It was amazing.
He had great effect. Let's put it this way. Okay, so
yes,
that is Downtime. And then what else do we have in this character sheet?
So
we got
one
the
thing I wanted to
class-
comment
Ancestries.
on is long rest. My question for me is like, this is obviously inspired by Blades in the Dark.
Yep.
Is this between heists?
Well,
if
it
you
does
will?
say the next day's adventure.
Exactly.
So my
right?
guess is this is a daily thing.
So I feel like this is something that might even happen in a session.
Yes.
This is not like downtime.
Right. This is not weeks of. This is not downtime.
Right.
It's called downtime.
Right.
But it's not downtime the way that we're used to thinking of it.
This is
Days.
downtime like in a play. in a
This
game.
is like this is your long rest.
Right.
Basically, I mean,
Now-
from 5e.
And I don't know if they're going to address it or not. And any GM who's played these games for any length of time already is experienced in dealing with this. But there was a good question in chat, like, what prevents you from like chaining these up, right? Taking 2 short rests, 2 long rests. I'm interested to see what the book says about it,
Right.
But even if there isn't, it's like,
Right. Well, and this is where this kind of game.
that's where the fiction comes in.
Where the fiction comes in, the narrative comes in, because if you're talking about your standard, there's no threat. We're just dungeon
If you're
delvers.
dungeon crawling in Daggerheart.
If you're dungeon crawling in Daggerheart, there's no pressing threat. There's no timeline. There's no fronts that are moving against us. Then you would do that.
Yeah.
You would heal to full every single time. You would max out your hope. And then you would go do adventure for a day, and then you would come back. Now, the idea is, in a game like this, these mechanics suggest that that's a bad way to play a game.
Right. And so I'm interested, because we've already seen mentions of GM countdown clocks, completion tracks.
Yeah.
Does downtime cost things?
Right.
Right. But does the GM get to tick stuff? So I'm expecting there's going to be something.
So then we have these character creation cards. These are all the races, apparently. The Ancestries.
Boy.
We're not going to
something called extended downtime.
We're not going to go through all
They
of them.
called the frog ribbit.
Clank. The ancestry names are Clanks, Ribbits, Daemons, Dwarves, Giants, Elves, Humans, Orcs,
It's kind of sweet to play as a giant.
Dracona, Qatari. I mean, they know who their audience is here.
Oh, 100%.
It's not me. Fairy, Fawn.
You say that, but you played EverQuest.
Gallipa. Yeah, and I played a barbarian human. I played a black human, an erudite, and then I played a what was my last character?
The XR.
I played the Ixar, but that's because we were all playing evil characters.
Just saying, you're scaly.
I played one guy.
You're scaly.
And his name was anyways, his name was Scrang Hates
I don't
You.
know why, but because frogs are stupid, right? But
I mean,
I always liked Froglocks in EQ2. I don't know if I'd play one, but I didn't mind that they
Look,
were
I thought
alive.
ducks were dumb, and now
what
I
about
think
Chrono
ducks are
Trigger? What about
sweet.
Frog?
I mean, he wasn't actually a frog.
I
though.
know, but he was.
I mean, he looked like a frog. He's got polymorphed.
Yeah, but he was essentially an anthropomorphic frog. But anyways,
Yeah. I mean, he wasn't a frog race.
there's a Gallopus. We got our nice anthropomorphic turtles. Great. We've got goblins.
The turtles are so popular.
We've got fungrels. We've got furbolgs, which is a cow person. We've got simias. Okay, so
there's
a
so
monkey?
many.
there are.
ancestries.
I mean, look, they know
and they got things. They do different
and no
things.
duck, Bob.
I know.
Galapagos.
I don't
They have
understand.
every animal under the fucking sun here.
Is this like a new campaign setting for them, or is it in the
This
same
game
world?
is unplayable.
No,
without
I think
duck.
it's a new thing.
They did a whole new thing with
Yeah.
that.
Now, granted, I mean, look, the fact of the matter is they know who their people
There are
are.
lots of
They know who
dwarves.
they are. They want ancestries are so important to people nowadays, and it's just so not
Sure.
important to me. It never has been. And I get it. That's how people. They need to externally identify with their character. Like I need to look different to feel different.
Yeah, I mean,
And
people love
this is. I mean, look at their most recent campaign. The one guy is what, like he's a lawn maintenance robot or something. Freshly cut grass. Anyways,
Oh, yeah, that's right.
and then we have our community. Now the art
By the
here.
way, Alex wants to be a turtle in 5e. I was like, oh yeah, well,
Now
I have some turtle minis.
the
if
art
you need
the art here is very cool.
STLs.
So
yeah,
this,
well, Ninja Turtle.
this
figures.
is
I
your
got some cool ones.
This is like your heritage, where you're born. Are you high born? Are you ridge born? Are you sea born?
Oh, I thought these were answers. Okay.
Are you
cool.
underborn, wild born, lore born, order born, wander born, sly born? So
Okay, see what I like about this, and I
Very
haven't read them
cool.
in detail, is like you and I traditionally hate backgrounds as in the mechanic because they suck. Usually it's just a way to get another stack modifier to something
Yeah.
and a skill that you're going to get anyway, or it doesn't matter, right? These give you powers.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, why? I don't know. Let's see. Why do you get an extra downtime action? Because apparently I grew up on the beach and that gives you an extra downtime action. I don't know. I guess I'm used to lounging.
I mean, my guess is that you're just a very expeditious person who
Wow.
knows how to get shit done. But
My point is I like this kind of stuff. This is for me what makes Ancestries cool. This is one reason I really like Ancestries in 4E, and even PF2 to an extent, because I like that you feel like the thing, right? When an Eladrin teleports, you're like, that's a fucking Eladrin. I mean, I know this is true for you. Every time a dwarf second wins as a minor action,
Right.
everyone on the table goes, dwarves.
right, it feels very
It
dwarven.
feels cool, right? So
Yeah.
I like stuff like that versus just stats that brings it out, right? And so the idea that they're bringing it out here for Ancestry, so you feel like a cat person, that they're bringing it out with the community thing, that's really cool. That plays in the narrative.
Yeah, I mean, that's
aspect.
kind of
And
cool.
mechanically, it's
I mean, Katari's on any agility roll,
Mhm.
you may mark a stress to re-roll your hope die.
that's great.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So your character mechanically is better at that type
Yeah.
of thing. And here's the other thing. It's not, 50 things. It's just the one
You
thing.
just got the one.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd probably play this giant because that sounds awesome.
By the way,
Shocking,
by the way, props to the people at Daggerheart. Fairy, wings, mark stress to take flight until your next roll with fear. So you can keep flying,
Just keep flying. Don't roll
until you make a roll and it's with fear.
Does that mean you fucking plummet?
And while flying, your evasion score increases by +2.
Well, that's actually pretty cool.
I like that.
But being able to fly at level 1,
Yeah, this should be at level
It's not
16.
even a level 1. It's just that you're a fairy.
You have
have wings. What the hell?
you can't fly until you take a feat.
I know.
That's what I'm gonna tell you.
At level 16.
And then
Half
again,
of that dragon book is Mark explaining why you can't fly as a dragon.
and again, we're not going to get into it, but here are your level 1 domain cards.
Yeah.
So each of these has the grimoire, because this is the first one's part of your codex, and the second one is part of your splendor domain. So, and then you would have one of these cards, and
So they just
And
shrunk,
they give you
They
3
just shrunk up the image to get the text to fit.
What did they do? Where?
The art, you could see the art how it's not aligned because they just the image. They needed more room for the text.
all 3 of them are aligned. I
Uh-uh.
think this one is just
Go
done
up.
wrong, because all the rest of them will line up.
Yeah. That's
I think it has too much text,
But it
so they had to
looks like
shrink it
each
up.
one gives you 3 powers.
Yes.
So, if we have the Book of Typhar, we make a spellcast roll against up to 3 enemies very
Well,
close
that's
to
the
you.
grimoire, yeah. Because that's a grimoire, and the spells do something different. But,
Got it. Well, the spell isn't from your codex.
Well, the spell is from the Splendor.
Right. So that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. That,
Yeah, these are just the wizard's domains.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, grimoires work differently than spells versus
I know. I'm just pointing out that it's
Yeah.
not like the wizard casts spells.
no,
They have grimoire abilities.
Yeah.
And then they have
and
spells.
they're different. Yeah, they're cool.
Right.
Yeah,
And case in point, remember so anyways, and then, your wizard could have mending touch.
yeah. Or look at
heal.
reassurance. I like that.
Reassurance. Once per short rest after an ally attempts an action roll, but before the consequences take place, you may offer assistance or words of support. When you do, they may re-roll their dice. It's pretty cool. Now, it's interesting, too. Somebody said something about the cost
That's the
to
stress.
swap.
Oh,
or
no,
is that
sorry.
the cost to use it?
In combat, you can swap for stress. I don't know
Yeah.
what it takes to use it, though.
And that I think is the cost in the upper right-hand corner.
I think the stress is in the right hand corner is the lightning bolt.
Those lightning bolt
Now,
stress.
here's your subclass, Smith, if we get down to page 11.
By the way, if they use that terminology, that's one of the things that made Descent awesome. Is a little lightning bolt, okay, fatigue. Or the teardrop. Immediately what everything is at any
Yep.
time.
Yeah. Don Pokey says, yeah, that's the cost to swap. That's the cost to swap in combat. Okay. So
the
basically,
cost to swap that spell in the combat is that.
right. So if you had reassurance,
I like that.
and someone needed mending touch, you could spend 1 stress and swap it in.
No, reassurance is 0.
Right, but you're swapping to mending touch because you want to heal.
Yeah.
So I think you'd have to spend 1. Yeah. So by the way, it means you can go to reassurance for 0.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So
So you could just always swap that in. Maybe you have to swap it in before you do the thing.
yeah, I don't know exactly what the timing is or the restriction on the action type. Now, we saw that you get a subclass. And so here you can see that they have one subclass here, which is called the Foundation. And they get 2 abilities. Which is so if you choose Foundation, you spellcast with your knowledge stat.
Oh, that's
cool. I'm sorry. And then you pick, do you have the School of War or the School of Knowledge?
Yeah.
And so they both use knowledge, but the one person is your advantage die for knowledge rolls is D8, and as an adept you can mark a stress instead of spending a hope if you want to use experiences. So the School of Knowledge person doesn't have to rely on hope to use experience. They can use stress. That's very, very cool.
I like that.
And if you do, you double the experience modifier. So like they're really good with that. That's awesome. And then School of War, you get an extra armor slot. And when you make an attack roll with fear, you do extra damage. Oh, that's pretty cool.
I like it.
So this is where the more of the crunch is coming.
This is where the crunch is coming.
But it's also so flavorful.
Well, of course.
Oh, okay. Subclass is the name for Foundation is the name for subclass.
Foundation is the name.
Yeah.
Okay.
So our wizard would be a School of Knowledge. Basically, subclass and Foundation are interchangeable.
Got it.
They're just doing that for clarity, I think.
Got it.
Got it. Thank you for that, Akel.
So you pick one of these.
You pick the School of Knowledge or School of War.
Yeah.
And that makes some sense. Like if we shoot over to the Warrior right quick, which is for some odd reason in black and white. Oh no, they're all in black and white. The Warrior has Call of the Slayer or Call of the Brave as their foundations. So if we take a look at the Warrior, the Call of the Slayer, on a roll with hope, you may choose. Oh, look at that. This is some board gaming mechanics here, and I love it. On a roll with hope, you may choose to place a single D6 Slayer die on this card instead of taking the hope. You can store a number of D6 Slayer dice equal to your proficiency and can pick up any number of these dice and roll them whenever you make a weapon attack or damage roll to add their value to the total.
Sweet.
Then discard them. At the end of the session, clear any remaining Slayer dice on your sheet.
Use it or lose it.
And gain that many hope.
Oh.
So that tells us that hope carries over from session to session.
Yeah, so hope is not
it is not a
resource.
Well, and we saw, right? Because you have to use your long rest and stuff to even get them back.
This is the Warrior?
But what I like about this is, this is the Warrior. So you can basically turn your hope into damage. And then if you don't end up using it,
you get it back.
But it also doesn't let you bank it forever.
Right.
Because like you could theoretically go, I'm going to bank it. There's no cap here.
Yeah, that's fucking awesome.
You can store a number equal to your proficiency. Okay.
I always call the brave when you fail a roll with fear, you get hope. That's cool.
That's cool.
That's fucking cool.
Once per long rest, before you attempt something incredibly dangerous or face off against a foe who clearly outmatches you, describe what ritual you perform a preparation to clear 2 stress and gain 2 hope.
Okay.
So basically, this character, when the going gets tough, they get going.
Yeah.
I mean, that's very cool.
Yeah, very flavorful too.
Yeah, very flavorful. And then we get
Those
into
are powerful too.
and then we get into, again, these are the level 2 codices that you get for the wizard. There's the level 3, there's level 4, all the way up to, I'm assuming, right? Level, not 10.
They go to 10. I don't know what the playtest does, but
Oh, by the way, remember too, one of the things that you can do, if we scroll down to page 18, remember the
playtest.
The Foundation can become a mastery. And you can upgrade your subclass. So if you choose, if you go to the School of Knowledge has a mastery. When you take this mastery, choose 2 of your experiences, increase their value by +1, and whenever you wish to use an experience, roll a d6. On a roll of 5 through 6, you do not have to spend hope.
Oh shit!
And the School of War increases your bonus damage dice to d10, and when you make a successful attack roll with hope, you may choose to make it with fear instead. Basically, you can always do the extra damage. And then look at level 9, Disintegration Wave. You mark a stress for each one you want to kill.
That's some Gloomhaven ass shit right there.
And by the way, it says, tell you which enemies within far range have a difficulty of 14 or lower. So basically, it's a minion wipe, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Or a low-level wipe. So.
Difficulty of 14 or lower. That's interesting verbiage.
I don't know what that verbiage is. Obviously, it has to do with probably with the CR type rating of the character. And then we look at our level.
Not come back to life by any means.
Yeah, level 10. Well, you've got your ultimate, Smith. Transcendent Union. Once per long rest, spend 5 hope
there it is.
to cast this spell on 2 or more willing creatures that wish to be bonded. Until your next short rest, any creatures that have this union with each other can always share hit point slots and stress slots between them.
It's like a super shield.
It's like, that's literally like the joining.
Whoa, big tip.
Big Daddy Coral coming in with $100. That is amazing. Thank you, Coral. He says, "Are the KOLC finally going to like a popular game?" They're off to a really solid start, Coral. I mean, thank you incredibly for that. Obviously, super generous. Thank you so much for that. We appreciate it. It goes without saying that normally we talk about things that are very unpopular on this channel,
right?
And as a result, we don't really get a lot of financial support from YouTube. We get all of our financial support from our patrons, from folks like Coral, who are supporting us on both Patreon and here in the chat.
Yeah, so make sure you like and subscribe or join the Patreon.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are what keep us going for stuff like this.
Yeah, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves here, though. Right, here's the thing. This game looks really good and well made. So it's probably not going to be popular.
No, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Right. Well, again, I could see. So, I mean, my hope for this game, as I look at this stuff, by the way, level 10 spell, Resurrection. Perfect. That's awesome. Also, I love that a wizard can cast Resurrection.
Yes. How about that?
That's awesome.
That's like right back from Conan.
Oh, look at that. You see that?
What?
Resurrection. Make a spell cast roll 20. I'm assuming that means DC 20.
Okay.
On a success, you may restore one creature that has been dead no longer than 100 years. Then roll a D6. On a 1 through 5, put this card into your vault permanently.
Damn.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
This is like a once per camp.
So you're really not supposed to be bringing people back from the dead.
Not
well, I like the failure. It's like
on a failure.
That's a Mercer thing, right? I'm trying to remember. Doesn't Mercer not play with raised dead?
I don't know that. Somebody in the chat will for sure.
Yeah.
Know that.
Because he wants it to have that emotional impact. If you can just run him through the
it's like, and the consequence of failing such a powerful magic can have unexpected effects on the dead.
Yeah, which
that's kind of cool.
That
verbiage is really
cool.
cool. Yeah,
and I want to continue to address Coral about the popular game. The thing about it is, normally popular games are popular because they don't really say much of anything. They're not really trying to do anything.
Yeah.
They offend no one.
Right.
They don't target anyone.
Right.
And they usually have their primary rule is do whatever you want. The game rules don't matter.
Yeah.
When a game tells me that the game rules don't matter, that makes me really excited to read your game rules.
It's like hiring a carpenter. And he's like, yeah, the woodwork doesn't matter.
Right. Whatever wood I use, use whatever wood you want.
It's fine. Don't worry about it.
So my response to you, Coral, is there's a lot here to like. They've clearly thought through it well. For a beta playtest document, this is very well done.
Yeah.
High
quality.
I mean, they were spending some of their money on this for sure. And there's a lot, of stuff that again we were just going through the kind of the character sheet and some of the fact that they have like the intro package for the rules for the game. We also had some concerns. I'm still concerned about the damage roll thing.
We gotta get back to the playtest doc.
But let's shoot over to part 2. Which is playing an adventure. And let's just see if there's anything here that we don't have, that we haven't covered, because I do want to make sure that we kind of cover at least most of the rules of the game. Again, GM narrates details, players ask GM questions, players and GM answer questions, choose and resolve actions, repeat the cycle. I mean, this is PBTA 101.
Yep.
It is a
which is probably why Derek likes it.
Conversation. Well, it's a way of thinking about the game fiction first. And that's what's most important here.
Right.
Then they give us an example of interacting. Let's take a look here. I just want to cure this here. He gathers 3 of his character tokens to represent his agility and scoundrel bonuses, then rolls his duality dice and the tokens. So their idea is that you're like rolling the tokens.
Yeah.
I almost like the idea of getting like D1s.
Yeah, they saw them. Makes sense. What page are you on?
I'm on page 96.
Of the playtest manuscript?
Yeah, the playtest manuscript. And then I'm going on to 97. So what can you do on your turn? This game has no turns in the traditional sense, Players don't have a set number of actions they can take or things that they can do before play passes. So instead,
No.
everyone should follow the fiction to figure out what happens next.
Well, that is a big break.
Well, unless it might be different in combat.
Oh, that's what I was thinking of.
You know.
I was like, if there's no initiative, that's critical roles.
Now, they're very specific about this. Generally, players in the spotlight have the chance to describe their move, what their character is doing. If they describe something that requires a roll, then we'll stop. It even says the play pauses while the roll is being made, right? Which is fantastic language.
Yeah, I like that.
Certain roll results and other situations can prompt the GM to make a GM move. So I mean, this is very PBT.
Yeah, it's PBTA.
For a full explanation of GM moves, see Making Moves in Part 3. I might want to look at this. Since Daggerheart relies on a flexible back and forth conversation between GM and players, there are no combat rounds.
Oh, so there's no initiative?
However, in combat scenarios that have the potential to last more than a few rolls or in any scene where moment-to-moment gameplay becomes important, that's where you can use the action tracker. I am going to skip ahead of that because I'm really curious about that.
Yeah, let's go to flow combat.
Flow combat. Combat in Daggerheart has no initiatives, Bob.
Oh, boy.
So the issue here that Derek and I are like wondering about is how do they make this work? Because if you do this like in Dungeon World, you fucking break the game.
Correct.
Well, but also I was just thinking about like what the big question of this thumbnail was like, are you going to be able to take over 5e? Is 5e people going to come to this? Are they going to leave initiative? It seems like
Yeah.
they're so used to that.
And we'll see what they think. We'll see what they get to. From that perspective. But like, we had a $2 super chat from Vin. He said, "Super want to know how to handle initiative." Yeah, I mean that's because obviously if it's done like Dungeon World, where it's just like, we just go back and forth, we just go back and whatever. But I don't know. We'll see here. All right. Instead, any fights that happen play out narratively, moment to moment, just like any other actions that you might be doing. This provide the players the opportunities to team up together in their tactics, respond appropriately to narrative changes in the scenes, and not be locked into only doing violence once the first strike happens.
Okay.
Similarly, enemies don't have a set order in which they act. Instead, the GM will make moves in accordance with the fiction. Now, again, we've talked about popularity, Coral. Words like this ring true for me. It's very scary for the.
This is going to turn off 90% of the people watching this.
Oftentimes, these moves will happen when a player rolls with fear or fails the action they were attempting.
These are your misses.
But a GM can make so basically these are your PBTA misses. But it does say, but a GM can make a move anytime the narrative demands it. Right? A lot of people make this mistake of PBTA of thinking that the GM only gets to do something when they roll.
This is language for golden opportunities.
Right. Not just golden opportunities. Remember, the GMs can also make a move whenever the players look to you to see what happens.
Yeah.
That's the other way you can make GM moves. They usually make a soft move. But
Yeah.
when they make a move, they will usually escalate the scene in an exciting and dangerous way. A character might take an attack from some enemies, become vulnerable, or anything else that significantly changes the scene. Okay. Action tracker. All right. Here we go. Whenever there is a combat scenario that is likely to last more than a roll or two, or when play moves to maps and minis, the GM should place the action tracker card on the table within everyone's reach. Okay, so we have got like a pool.
Okay.
Whenever PCs make an action roll, and I'm assuming that's like an attack, a spell,
Action roll.
they must place a character token, that's one of your unique little baubles, on the action tracker. While on the tracker, these are known now as action tokens. It's important to note that tokens are not limited. If a player ever runs out, they just get more.
Okay.
The PCs aren't the only ones who use the action tracker, however. The GM spends action tokens to activate adversaries.
Okay, but this is only when you're in this mode.
This action tracker mode.
Okay.
Which is, again, either combat or maybe where moment to moment matters.
It's weird saying spend action tokens, but there is no, you just keep pulling them out.
Well, so my sense here.
Well, no, the GM isn't pulling them out. The players pull them out and they put it on a card.
You have a
tracker.
set number?
No.
And then the GM takes what's on that card to spend it.
Oh.
So we can go into it, but my sense is that you theoretically you could take 500 actions.
Okay.
And then there'd be 500 tokens on the card.
Yeah.
For me to do stuff with my monsters, I have to spend actions off of the card.
Got it.
And clear it. And I'm guessing that like if I want my boss to do his ultimate mega attack, it might cost 5.
Got it.
Or 7, which means the players all kind of get a chance. The players are all doing their
chance to swing.
and then it's not like, it's my turn.
Yeah.
I attack and miss.
Right.
I went
No,
you and you guys
no.
didn't even do anything.
You
Yeah.
spend them all. So we'll see. Here.
Interesting. Okay.
While the action tracker is on the table, it is important to remember that players may still act in any order they like and take action multiple times in a row as the narrative flow demands it, which is very, I mean, if you've watched this channel, that is how I describe playing Dungeon World, playing, sometimes I will stick on a person.
Yeah.
The fiction will demand, this is kind of your scene.
Yeah.
We're going to go to your turn and then your turn. Bob, then back to your turn.
That's a big step for GMs that have only GM'd 5e to jump into.
This is a narrative game.
I know.
And you need to be able to do that to manage that spotlight management. But also, too, the players themselves can manage it.
There's a lot that goes into that, though, that you really are going to have to, like, retrain your GMs on.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, how many groups have you ran through Dungeon World who only came from D20 and it was a fucking shit show?
But they just want to go in order. Like I went, so now it's your turn. Like, no, we can free flow this.
That's all they know.
I know.
I mean,
I like
this
this
is the
system.
same
It's
problem
just
people have
hard.
with Hackmaster.
Yeah.
D20 people can't get their heads around it because it's different.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that patronizing. I'm saying, like, no,
Yeah.
like, we grew up with like 30 years of playing Dungeons and Dragons. It's going to leave a mark,
Yeah. We're right. You cannot help but be biased. Here.
Yeah.
I mean, I like PBTA action, like the way it
In fact,
flows.
actually,
it's just different.
You know what? If you go back to one of my Dungeon World streams, I talk about how when I'm playing Dungeon World, I mentioned this. When I'm playing Dungeon World, I just have a good feeling and sense of it. I said, but if you want to, I said, write a note card and write each player's name. And when you're in a sort of more spotlight time matters, like a combat, just every time somebody's making an action, making a roll, mark a little check next to their name. And then after, maybe 10 minutes of conversation, you look down at your card and you notice Smith has 5 checks, Bob has 4 checks. But Tim only has 1.
Right.
Yeah,
Then that's a good
some more
indication
time.
that Tim needs some more time. That's kind of what this action tracker is doing.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorta, because I don't know if anyone's actually looking at the tracker.
Well, actually, here we go. The game should continue as normal. The GM just has an additional tool at their disposal to help guide the combat encounter. However, players are encouraged to give other turns with the spotlight. If another player hasn't placed any tokens on the action tracker recently, consider letting them act, if they want to, before you do anything else. This also gets rid of the whole, like, I rolled high in initiative, but I don't know what I want to do.
So again, and you just have these tokens, and they're supposed to be unique to you, so that people would know. Oh, those are Smith's tokens or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Bob, you might have like the green Hulk tokens,
Yeah, or
whatever.
something. Yeah.
In fact, they said they should be unique to their, kind of thing.
Okay.
But weird. The
What's up?
the Coral's super chat definitely came through because it's in YouTube, but Stream
on the
Stream
left
Elements
hand
missed
side.
it. Yeah, no, Stream Elements didn't grab it. So, I'll fix that in a second here. All right. So, example: Emerson places a character token on the action tracker, bringing the total tokens on the tracker up to 3. Then makes a roll to strike an enemy he's in melee with and gets a success with fear. He describes how he comes down with a sword in an overhand swing and deals 12 damage. But because the roll was with fear, the GM also makes a move. So remember, when you roll with fear, that's the GM's ability to jump in.
Do you think like that? We already talked about like rolling the dice to get the check, and then rolling the dice and adding all that, but then also now flicking in your token. Is it just like a lot of steps that you got to do?
It's more fiddly.
Yeah,
It's more fiddly.
I mean, I like representing things, but is it just
when you don't have rounds?
Yeah,
The physical act of picking up your token and putting it on the card is sort of a signification. It's my turn now,
that I do like,
and
yeah,
that does sort of make a sort of a statement to the table.
Okay.
Yeah,
maybe
shows dominance.
So example number 2. So in this instance, right, Emerson placed his action token. He succeeded with fear. There's now 3 on there. And because he rolled with fear, that apparently allows the GM to make a move.
Right.
So Elise, I'm assuming that's the GM, takes the 3 tokens off of the action tracker, spending the first to end the vulnerable condition on a nearby adversary who breaks free from the binds that were binding him. She
Sounds
spends
like a
the next
temporary
token
status, yeah.
on the adversary Emerson just hit with the sword, describing the enemy's warhammer being pulled out of the mud and swung at his rib. Elise rolls for damage. Sounds like you go straight to damage. I don't know if that's right or not. And totals it up for 9 physical damage. This falls within Emerson's major threshold, but he marks 2 armor slots and rolls 2d6. The total is 5, so he reduces the damage down to 4 and only takes 1 hit point. I don't know why he's rolling d6.
Why is he rolling 2d6?
All right, let me read this again. Let's see. First of all, how come there wasn't an evasion check? Are we wrong about that? Second, rolls for damage, totals it for 9 damage, just falls within major threshold, marks 2 armor slots, and rolls 2d6 to totals 5. So
I don't know. That
armor had a value.
we didn't know the rules went, so I don't know what that means.
I wonder if this is like
Like
dated.
old dated
Someone says I
stuff.
think that's left over from the
James
previous
says I think it's
version.
left over from previous versions. Okay.
Yeah, that's not
Well,
how
guess
it
what?
works.
I hated that.
Yeah.
So,
So I'm glad they fixed
so
it.
I'm glad that they fixed that.
That's good.
Thank you, James.
That was very confusing.
Yeah, that was very confusing. Okay.
Yeah, I guess you still roll.
Hey,
for
we
your
got some
armor.
feedback for you. Good roll.
Jesus Christ! That, like, resolving one.
Yeah, that was
strike,
horrible.
That's like 4 die rolls.
That was a lot.
When the GM makes a move, they may choose to spend any number of the tokens on the action tracker. For each token they spend, they can activate an adversary on the battlefield to take action. This could be casting a spell, making an attack, ending a temporary condition. Think of this action tracker as the GM catching the actions of the adversaries up with where the players are in the fiction. The GM turn lasts until they have exhausted all available tokens or all they wish to utilize at this
so
time.
when the GM goes, they go.
Once they are done spending action tokens, then the player returns to the PCs.
Okay, so that's interesting. You're gonna have a lot of back and forth
Yeah.
there because you're gonna be missing like half the time.
Yeah.
And that means the GM is gonna have like probably a little pool of tokens. You know, like
Yeah.
1 to 3 seems reasonable. And then they're gonna cash all those out at once. They're gonna have a big round. It's gonna be scary, and then back to the PCs.
Right.
Until they
Yeah.
miss again.
Right. Typically, the GM should not activate the same adversary twice within a single turn, no matter how many, because basically it's like mouse guard, where you had the player turn, the GM turn, the player turn, the GM turn.
And that's probably how it's going to work most of the time because you're probably going to fail 50% of the time.
Correct. Well, I mean, when we start talking about all
Well, when
these
you
different
get
bonuses and
not
advantages.
just fail, but generate fear.
Okay.
Because that's when the GM gets to go.
Additionally, at any time, we're on to the next page here. At any time, the GM may clear 2 tokens from the action tracker to gain a fear.
Oh, nice.
Similarly, the GM may exchange 1 fear to place 2 tokens on the action tracker. So you can spend your fear
Load it up.
load it up.
He's like, I'm about to go,
When
and it's about to be bad. Also, could you imagine that? Because it's funny because it's fear, and also like you're just like, hold on a second, chink, chink, and they're like, oh shit, this is gonna hurt real bad.
GM needs their own tokens.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm not thinking like
Get
jet
dark,
black,
yeah.
blood red,
Soren,
blood
you
red.
These are like the Derek Harrow points.
Yeah, the Dagger. When combat has come to a close or the GM determines the action tracker is no longer necessary for play, any remaining tokens become fear for the GM at a 2-for-1 ratio.
Wow. All right. So the GM's going to get a lot of fear.
Yeah, so it's like hope in that it's a fairly renewable resource. So what's the purpose of this? While role-playing combat using theater of the mind, it's easy to turn our focus from one portion of the conflict to another, knowing that off-camera, other action is occurring, and we'll see it when we get to that point in the battlefield.
Cool.
When we utilize maps and minis, it can feel odd to see portions of the battlefield change while others remain frozen. And this is why, Bob, you always say that when we've played Dungeon World or Dungeon World-like games, it felt more alive to you.
Yeah.
Because when you're playing it with minis, the idea is that there's a rampage in combat. What you see is one guy moving at a time. Whereas when you're describing it, theater of the mind, I might describe how all of you are like, when we're
Theater of
playing,
mind
when we're
is
playing
nice.
DTX in 5th edition D&D, and we were all fully theater of mind, and I described the 3 of you linking shields and striding forward together.
Dirge.
What would that look like in a round-based initiative system?
It wouldn't work.
It wouldn't work. You'd be like, oh, he moves, then I move.
Actually, he moves, then someone unrelated moves,
Right.
then a bad guy
Then
moves, then the second dwarf moves,
no,
then the line's broken.
The shield never broke somehow.
Right, we're marching in line, but you go first, and then you get flanked and killed.
I like the flank part. That was great.
So the action tracker allows the entire table to keep track of the portions of the combat the group has focused on, then center other areas of the conflict and catch up time.
That's the index card you were talking about.
Yep. In this way, it helps the GM and the table as a whole have an idea of who has acted and who might need an opportunity to be showcased. So this is literally the same advice I gave for Dungeon World,
Yeah.
but just with it's much more tactical.
Yeah.
It's actually a resource. Very interesting. The addition of tokens to the tracker also provides a clear currency for the players to track and anticipate the GM's moves.
This is cool.
When the players take a large number of actions in a row, the tracker fills, providing the GM with more currency to spend, raising the stakes.
If Critical Role is not selling ancestry tokens and GM tokens as like merch, they're not
sure they
trying.
are.
They're not
I mean,
trying.
The fact
this
that
is
they
easy
have
to sell.
already going with the whole cards and stuff like that.
This is like
they have a merchandise plan.
Yeah. This is already Because why would you not buy that? I'm the giant. I'm buying the giant tokens. I'm getting the giant play deck. I'm getting giant
Well, they know their
dice.
audience. They're gonna sell the shit.
I mean
out of this.
I bought the Forbidden Land dice when I played Forbidden Lands. I mean, you do it
every time there's a game that
Yeah.
has like dice. I buy that dice.
Yep.
I have like all the Avatar dice.
Yep.
You know,
and I could see.
I don't even like the Forbidden Lands dice. I own 2 sets of
I know.
those.
I don't really like the Forbidden Lands dice, but I
think they're okay.
They're
They're a little too fan. They're always so fancy.
Too much noise.
Yeah, there's
it's
always too
really
fancy.
it's really the D8, D10, and D12 that bother me.
Yeah, there's
They're-
a lot going on in there.
Yeah, and the colors look terrible. But if there's a black and white set, there's probably crisp, just contrasting numbers here, and then give me like some giant tokens, and I don't know, that'd be pretty sweet. Some play
Really
out,
nice cards.
yeah, some loadout cards.
All right, so I jumped down here.
Okay,
real quick
where we
to
at, what
page
page?
344.
Oh my gosh, you really jumped.
I want to see what the adversaries look like. So they've got levels 2 through 4 here. So right off the bat, so we start with the assassin. So this is the assassin poisoner, who has the skulk roll.
Oh, sorry. You were right. There's a shit ton more armor. It all has tiers, and a lot of them have a ton of features.
So
Is that what page are you on?
I am on page 344.
Oh, this one says the death mechanic is
You
pretty
can't
cool.
just type in a number.
I'm lazy.
Okay. So we have an assassin poisoner.
This is taking a really long time.
He's 340.
I did appreciate how long this was going to take. Now I'm just going with the
Now
flow.
he's just being a pain in the ass.
I forgot the page again. What page was it?
344.
344.
Ouija board says,
Got it.
not sure in media res, combat subsystem just to replace initiative is going to feel smooth enough in combat to justify this. I promise you it will be, because I love playing Dungeon World because I love that. I love that.
They're very smooth. The PBTA like
Oh, 100%.
Now, as Aaron was saying, this will be hard and a struggle.
Yes.
And a lot of groups and a lot of GMs will struggle bus with this really, really hard.
this game is going to get a shit ton of flack. 100%.
Yes, exactly. The same way that people don't understand Avatar. The people,
Avatar got a shit ton
the
of
same
flack.
people that criticize Avatar Legends combat exchanges showcase that they have never run multiple combats in a game like Dungeon World.
Correct.
And understand that the endemic problems that occur from that.
Right.
where's this death mechanic they're talking about?
So we've got Assassin Poisoner. They're a skulk. So that's like the lurker role, I guess. I love that they have this. This is straight out of a Dungeon World monster. Motives and tactics. What do? They anticipate. They taint food and water. They disable. They get paid. So it takes the monster from being more than just a combat.
Right.
Like you
This
know.
is a guy that's going to like try to like assassinate.
Right.
Which you would think, yeah, that's the name, Assassin Poisoner. But like when you're thinking about typical fantasy role playing game, Assassin Poisoner, that means I'm going to run up to a dude and stab him with a poison dagger.
Right.
Not like actually attempt to assassinate by poisoning their food.
So we can see that they have their damage thresholds. They have this difficulty number.
Yeah, I wonder what the difficulty is.
Is that what the player has to roll to hit you? Oh, yeah, that's the DC.
Why isn't that evasion?
It's probably it's what they're calling.
Well,
it.
maybe evasion isn't what we think evasion
Maybe
is.
evasion isn't.
All right, let's take a look here. Evasion. We are on page 111.
Oh, good. This is close to the death rules too.
Each PC has an evasion score, which sets the difficulty for any roll another creature makes against them.
Okay, so that play example was definitely dated then.
Yes.
Because they were going with
Yes.
the automatic hits,
Yeah,
which
automatic
I don't
hits,
like.
yes.
And they were going with rolling for armor, which I
Yes.
also don't like, in a game that already has a lot of die rolls.
Okay, so that is the evasion score, which sets the difficulty for any roll a creature makes against them.
So it's the same
This
thing.
represents the character's abilities to avoid attacks by adversaries. So I'm guessing it's with the spells, it's with rain.
Everything. Get the hell out of the way.
A character's base evasion score is determined by their class, but can be modified by domain cards, gear, statuses, and more. Each player gets to describe. Oh, I love it. I mean, I know you can do this in any game, but I love it. Each player gets to describe what their character's evasion score represents, and you should take the opportunity to be evocative and use this as another way to just deepen the customization and characterization of your character. You might be really good at acrobatic dodging or precise footwork. You might parry incoming blows. You might disrupt enemy attacks with well-timed counters, or you might have magical shields or enchanted objects which ward off blows. That's the kind of stuff that you do all the time, anyways.
Right.
But a lot of people.
But it's normally FBT because it's 5th edition.
Right.
Here, though, the fiction matters.
Right.
If like I'm playing a wizard, I have a magic shield, and we're fighting something that's known to like I don't know, have an anti-magic aura. Right. You might go, hey, listen, we know your character's defensive style. You're getting a penalty to this evasion because magic is not going to work here.
And that kind of thing would never fly in a mechanics first game.
But here I'd be like, oh,
But
this makes sense.
This is a fiction first game, and it would and in my mind that is exactly what this would do.
And then now that you have like an advantage and disadvantage mechanic, it's easy to resolve that. Disadvantage, he's immune to magic.
Yeah, exactly. And
Right.
he's easily able to penetrate your shields, which we all know that is how your character evades attacks, or like with telekinetic bursts or something to block. Anyway, I love it.
Yeah.
When an adversary misses an attack, this presents the players a chance to enrich the scene by describing how their character avoids the hit. And so they're even taking that idea of AC, which is passive, and evasion, which is passive, but turning it into an active thing, because it's the idea of like, it's not your passive armor that I'm wearing. You are doing something to be evasive.
Evading.
Yeah, very cool. And someone said, I thought evasion is evasion is against the GM's D20. The monster's difficulty is against the player's 2D12.
No, I get that. I just wonder why they're different.
Because writing difficulty on the player sheet might just be a little bit too.
Well, how come they're not both evasion?
Because the difficulty might also be like a catch-all number for like everything about that monster. Like that monster is difficulty 14. I want to sneak up on him.
Everything.
I want to sneak up on them. Difficulty 14. I want to wrestle him to the ground. Difficulty 14.
Okay.
I want to throw him off of this castle wall.
Okay.
Difficulty 14.
That's cool.
I think that's my guess.
If that's the case, I like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's look it up. Difficulty.
I don't know if this means like do I also evade poison?
Well, my guess is it's probably like 4th edition where it's like an attack. So yes. I don't know. That's a great
If
question.
I drink poison, do I still evade it?
When a player makes an action roll, you'll often have to set the difficulty of that challenge to know whether. Well, no. Yes. Okay. So the action roll might be resist poison, and that's where I'm just setting a DC. 5 is very easy. 10 is easy. 15 is medium. 20 is hard. 25 is very hard.
Sure.
30 is nearly impossible. And it's not level based. It's just 5 to 30.
I mean, yeah, that makes sense because your attributes aren't going to grow up that
Correct.
high over 10 levels.
Difficulty values can lie outside or between any of these 10 pole options. It should be treated as a sliding scale. You may choose to keep this difficulty secret or tell the player what up front, whatever style you prefer. Remember, only a player's roll when the outcome matters. Sometimes you might choose to have an NPC make a roll to determine the difficulty of a PC's action roll. Though this can add time that it takes to resolve a scene, it can also be a useful tool if you're unsure what the difficulty it should be. To make a difficulty roll a d20 and add any relevant experience that the NPC has to its total. Note, if the NPC already has an assigned difficulty value and experience, it's often easiest just to add the relevant experience to the current difficulty to get a value instead of rolling. So with that in mind, if we go back to the tier 1 adversaries and we go back to page 344, we can see that this creature has a difficulty of 14, but his experience is intrusion plus 2. So in my mind, that's difficulty 14. But if he's trying to like sneak past you or do
DC
something like that,
16.
then it's DC 16, or sneak up on you or something like that.
Yeah.
It also says in there, like when they take their next action, they must make a reaction roll with the strength 14. I wonder if it has, if it's more than just.
Well, so he has Grindletooth's Venom Blade.
Yeah.
And characters that mark hit points from a poison throwing dagger attack become vulnerable until their next action. When they take that next action, they must make a reaction roll with strength against DC 14 or take 2d10 physical damage that cannot be reduced by armor, and they stay vulnerable until they regain hit points or are treated for poisons.
So that's more language there because there's action rolls and reaction rolls.
Right. And my guess is reaction roll is probably, right, because you just get your action. My reaction roll is basically like, this is basically persistent damage.
Right.
And
But
it's
I'm wondering
just-
if there's like verbiage around like when you can do things versus when you can't. Like you may not get like, you might not be able to aid someone in an action roll, right? I don't know. It's just like the fact that they're just not called checks. That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, here we go. Reaction rolls. Some moves, this is page 110. Some moves prompt a reaction roll. This is a roll in response to a threat or attack and representing the character's efforts to avoid or withstand the effect. Reaction rolls generally work the same as action rolls, and rolls with hope still give you hope, and rolls with fear still give the GM fear. However, reaction rolls don't generate additional GM moves, nor do they contribute to the action tracker if it's in play.
That's correct.
Additionally, another character can't help you on a reaction roll. Everything is happening so quickly, you have to handle this alone. When you make a reaction roll, the GM will tell you which trait to use, and then you make it with the duality dice as if it were an action roll.
Got it. That's good. I like both of those things.
I like both of those things too.
Because that also deals with the infinite loop problem.
The
with
infinite
PBTA.
loop problem. Yeah, PBTA. Yeah, very much so. Yeah. Sometimes a mechanic or the GM might introduce a countdown. Countdowns are a way for the table to keep track of an oncoming event and usually involve setting a die to a certain value, then ticking that down until it reaches 0. A countdown might tick every time an action roll is made, or every time a PC rolls with fear, or during every downtime, or any other parameter, either set by the mechanics or the GM to reflect the fiction. See countdowns.
Yeah.
There's a dynamic count. I mean, this is just clock 101. But yeah.
But it's great.
There's a progress countdown. There's a consequence countdown. So very, very similar to this.
You keep going down, you're going to get to the deaths too. But
Here in the long-term countdowns.
aren't you? What page you on?
197, Bob.
Oh, you jumped. You clicked the hyperlink.
I clicked
Sorry.
Oh shit!
I thought you were still on the.
You're gonna like the
countdowns.
solo. Bob's gonna like the solo too.
What are we at? 197.
No. We'll go to death.
Okay, it's 118.
Yep. Death. This is important to note, by the way. There's downtime above that too. By the way, somebody said that gold is just fine.
Gold is just fine.
Gold is measured in handfuls, bags, chests, hoards, and fortunes.
Yeah, that's what
whenever you've marked off.
Yeah,
whenever you've marked off enough slots in a given category that you should reach the next category, you'll mark one in the following category and erase the current one. So, for example, if you were at 5 handfuls of gold and you should take one more, instead you'll erase those and mark a bag of gold.
Okay.
Okay.
If you have 4 bags of gold, that becomes a chest of coins.
Okay, so it's worth more.
And if you have 4 chests, it's a hoard, and 3 hoards is a fortune.
Okay, I can.
Yeah, so you have to kind of.
I can get behind.
You gotta
I can get behind that.
Yeah, you got to keep.
You know what
earning
it's root prestige.
That's exactly what it is.
It's root prestige
Yeah,
tracking.
I could do that. Okay,
Yeah.
because 13th Age had nothing, which sucked.
Oh yeah, that sucked.
Blades in the Dark, I'm like, it's
I know.
something, but it's
It's
kind of
coin,
not
but
great.
it's yeah.
This I'm like, okay, so
Well-
I could definitely get filthy rich.
Yeah.
And a bag of gold is different than a chest of gold.
Right. It's very nice.
I like that.
I like
can work with it.
I
I
can work
don't
with that.
actually care about the math.
Correct.
I care about
Right. The feel of
lots of shinies.
Yes.
Yeah.
it. When the party decides they want to move into downtime, they will need to make a choice between short rest or long rest. They can take up to 3 short rests before their next rest has to be a long rest.
Interesting.
This
Okay.
is kind of Dragonbane-ish, right? Where you only have a certain number of rests.
You get one.
Why? You get one. Well, no, you get a
round
rest
and a shift rest.
And a shift rest.
Stretch rest. And then you can
per shift rest.
Yes.
This is also a very popular 5e house rule.
Which
that is also in Baldur's Gate 3, which is they changed
Yep.
how short rests work. You just get 2 short rests.
Yep.
Each one heals you 50% of your hit points, your short rest resources.
before you have to go all the way
that shit.
back. Yep.
And then you get 2, and then you have to take a long
I
rest.
forgot that's right. That said Baldur's Gate 3. That's 100%
Yeah.
right.
Interestingly, by the way, if a short rest is interrupted, characters don't gain its benefits. If a long rest is interrupted, characters gain the benefit of a short rest.
Oh, okay.
I like that.
That's
I
not
always
bad.
hated that because you could sleep 7 hours in D&D and Derek's a dick. He's like, oh, you wake up, you get nothing, you can't prepare spells, you don't recover hit points. It's like, oh shit, that last 10 minutes, that's where all the rest was at. That was your REM sleep. You know, you fucked it up.
And they do say here that it's taking a break for about an hour. But again, I'm very loosey-goosey with the short
Yeah.
rest. Long rest is whenever you're able to make camp, relax for a few hours, and get some sleep. So that's
Again, very few hours.
Yeah.
Or a few hours, right?
Yeah,
Not like long.
it doesn't even really. I mean, it does say get some sleep, but it's not like weeks.
It's not
There's
weeks
something
now.
called extended downtime. I forgot where it was at, but it was talking about like working on your project.
Got it.
And stuff like that. You can or do stuff in downtime.
But anyways, let's go to death.
Yeah.
Yeah, death
Facing death is an important part of being an adventurer, and having a character die can be an exciting end to a story or an opportunity for the player to transition to something new. This is where we'll really see
Or
where the
our
rubber,
Critical Role
where
show.
the
Yeah.
rubber meets the road.
How far are you taking it,
How far are you
Mercer?
taking it, Merc? In Daggerheart, when you mark your last hit point, you must make a death move, and that's literally taken from
Make a death
Dungeon World.
Yep.
Choose one of the following options.
You'll like
there's
this.
3.
Yeah, you'll like this.
Embrace death and go out in a blaze of glory.
Okay.
Take one action at the GM's discretion, which becomes an automatic critical success.
Respect.
Then cross through the veil of death.
So add Fabula Ultimate
Yep.
to the list of inspired games.
This is 100% sacrifice.
That's why I was thinking you guys
Love
might
it.
like
2, avoid death and face the consequences. You drop unconscious temporarily and work with the GM to describe how the situation gets much worse because of it. Then
Like
roll
that.
your fear die. If its value is equal to or under your level, so you're more likely to take this at higher level, you gain a scar. You may not take any actions while unconscious. When you have any number of your marked hit points cleared by an ally, or on the next party's long rest, you return to consciousness.
Okay.
Now, I don't know what a scar is.
It's capital.
It's capital. But by the way, by the way, it's if its value is equal to or under your level.
Right.
So at level 1,
Yeah,
you have to roll a 1
up all the time.
No. Roll your fear die if its value is equal to or under your level.
The higher level.
If you're level 1, you have to roll a 1. If you're level 2, you have to roll a 1 or a 2.
Where do you fail?
If it's
when do you get the scar?
When it's equal to or under your level. The die roll.
Under. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like
at level 1,
if you get your ass kicked at level 1 and you roll like a 5 or whatever,
you're fine.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying.
You're not getting fucked up when you're low level.
Right.
You're getting more fucked up when you're high level.
Right. I'm sorry. You're getting fucked up like you just got like slapped around, but you're not like, well, you don't have any cool scars.
Correct.
Yeah.
You're too young for that. I don't know what a scar does.
Scar. Well,
But it's that one right there is avoiding their character death.
What?
That one right there is avoiding their character death on the show.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So that's how they're saving.
If you choose to avoid death, you might take a scar. If you do, permanently cross out one of your hope slots.
Oh, whoa.
You cannot use this slot to store hope anymore. The narrative impact on this scar is up to you. For it could be, for example, could now bear a physical scar, a painful memory, a deep fear. It's fucking trauma.
Trauma. It is 100% trauma. But it's trauma, which is normally just sort of a narrow mechanic. Like it's a very narrative mechanic. It can give you an extra
It's on the next page.
What?
It's on the next page.
What?
Scar.
Oh, is it?
It's right there.
There you go. Yeah. The narrative impact of scars of you. It might be a physical scar of deep fear. When you put a scar on your last hope slot, it's time to end your character's journey. You must find a great. This is your character had all 4 traumas.
Yeah.
Marked. Yeah. In Blaze in the Dark. Your character's not dead, but they are no longer able to be played.
I feel like it's.
This is
it takes longer to get your scars in this game than it is to get trauma.
Yes. Well, no,
at least with
the way you play. No, I like how we both blame each other. Okay, but there's a third option, which is interesting because Fabula Ultima basically has those first two.
Yes.
You have sacrifice and you have surrender.
Then we got to risk it all.
Roll your duality dice. So that's 2d12. If the hope is higher, you stay on your feet and clear an amount of HP and or stress equal to the value of the hope die, divided up however you want.
Okay.
If the fear die is higher, you die. If you get a crit, you stay on your feet, clear all HP and stress.
That's a ballsy move.
That is.
I like it.
I mean,
you know what?
Okay,
I was like, what could the third option be? I didn't have really an idea of what it was going to be. That's a perfect third option.
I mean, you're going to go for that every time.
Well, I don't know.
No.
Because
you know what's great about this?
I would go for the embrace death because I'm the martyr guy.
Here's the best part about it. If you're the character who is really like obsessed with your character and you just bought all the nice fancy dice for him, and you
got the $50 Hero Forge
then
menu,
you will choose.
You're avoiding death.
You'll avoid the death and face the consequences. And yes, if you lose all 5,
I mean, that's going to take a long time.
That's going to take a long time, and then shame on you.
Yeah,
but
you're literally bad at the game at that point.
But although I will note that is kind of a death spiral. Because you're going to only have you're going to after a couple times, you're going to have 1 or 2 hope.
I mean, you could upgrade your hope too.
At that point, you're like, look, I'm going on Blaze of Glory and I'm getting ready my new PC.
That's true. But then for the players who don't give a fuck,
right,
and they just want to YOLO swaggins,
right,
they just go, risk it up, baby.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine?
Because if you pull that off, you're like, full heal, I'm ready to go. What's up, bitch?
That is a full heal. Can you imagine the super boss uses like 5 of his points to do the super mega attack on you? You go to 0 and you go, risk it all, motherfucker.
Potion of elixir.
Roll the crit and you're just like, it's the potion of elixir at 1 hit point.
Yeah. I like it.
I like it.
I like it. They made
it fun.
They made it fun. They didn't ignore it.
And the most important part about it, there is nothing. RPGs are about agency.
Yeah.
And nothing is more taking away your agency than death saves because you're just watching yourself die.
Right.
And there's nothing you can do about it. This gives you a choice.
And it's your whole turn. You're like, you do nothing but roll dice. And you're next. It's
like,
so boring.
It's like what some people say when they're reaching their end of life and they say, look, all of us die. Not all of us get to choose how.
That's right.
And you get to choose how in this game.
And
that's great.
What's great too about this is
nice mechanic.
And we'll have to see how it plays out because they have established this. They've given the player that agency. Like they might be able to actually back up their claim that combat's dangerous. Because what's the reason not to now, right? Like we know the wink of Pathfinder 2. Pathfinder 2 combat, if you follow the rules exactly, you cannot die. You cannot die, right? Like it is designed. Like even if somehow the math goes against you, that's what your hero point's for, right? And that's why you're not supposed to spend your last hero point. Because the game was trying to shy away from this while at the same time also go, oh, death, it's scary. It's coming for you. It's not coming for you, right? But here it's like, hey, listen, we took death off the table. That's a player choice.
Yeah.
You could die or not die. It's up to you. So it's going to be interesting to see. All right, the monsters bring it.
Right. Obviously, it's not fun if the GM goes, okay, this guy's DC, everything he has is DC 30,
sure,
and he does 500
Yeah.
damage. I mean, yeah, you're going to get
We
destroyed.
don't fight that guy.
But no, but if you did for some reason, if Orcus showed up on your level 1 adventure party because they've already pissed him off, and he just raffle stomps the entire group, you might just go, okay, yeah, we all got a scar from that.
Yeah, which is appropriate.
Which is our hope has been dashed a little bit because Orcus came down and personally curb stomped us.
And also, again, going back to the narrative game, I like the scar aspect. I like how it's getting fucked up because like that in a way becomes like another like artifact of your character to talk about, right? Oh yeah, that scar, that was when Derek was a dick and he spawned Orcus on us and fucking wiped the party because we were being assholes that night.
Yeah.
Right? This scar I got because I was being a dick.
Right.
You know? like that's
and
cool.
And by the way, we are going to wrap up at 10 because that's when the Critical Role show
I was just
starts.
like, I was just looking at it. Like, they're live right now. Like that's when everybody's going to leave.
Down. So don't worry, we're
That's
gonna
when the good stuff happens.
So we're gonna wrap up actually because we talked about resurrection and it basically says it's basically very hard to do and it's not gonna think and they're not gonna be the same and it says there is a one-time use resurrection spell available at level 10.
And you don't need it in a game like set up like this, right?
Yeah.
I want to draw both of your guys' attention.
All right, this will be the last thing we look at.
The page 346.
Okay.
This is a solo. Tell me if this reminds you of something.
Battle Box Solo. Motives and tactics. Wait in disguise. Trample foes. Change tactics.
I don't actually know what a battle box is, but
Sounds robotic.
It sounds like a robot, like a robotic cube.
but look at the tactics. What does that remind you guys of?
Mark stress and roll a d6. Then make that move.
Oh, this is Forbidden Lands shit or Free League stuff.
Yeah, this is a monster.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically a monster. I mean, there
That's
might
kind
be
of sweet.
Yeah, let's take a look here.
I mean, these
Also, it gets Deathquake.
I was like, these names are kind of sweet, like Stunning Clap, Deathquake.
I read that psionic whale at first. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, I mean, like, so here's an example.
I'm summoning a fucking whale on you.
Oh, look at this. Like, this is page 357. This is a Vault Guardian turret. So it's like a
357. You said?
So it's a Vault Guardian turret as a magic cannon. It's basically a magic cannon. It's slow. 2. It takes 2 tokens to activate this adversary.
I love that. That's great.
But here's why, because it does a lot of damage. So it's like it does 4d10 plus 8 magic damage. So it's like it's hard to activate.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to spawn this thing. Concentrate fire. Spend 2 fear when another adversary does damage to a target within far range, and add the turret's damage to the total. Mark target. Spend a fear to mark a target. All attacks any adversary makes get a +3 bonus. And then detonation.
It's like a built-in tactics kind of.
It's like these are the things that this thing does. And and also here's the thing part is it costs fear. So the players understand. I mean, I'm assuming the fear pool, I'm assuming, should be public knowledge because the players could count how often fear goes into it anyways. So if you don't make the fear pool public, that's shit.
Yeah.
If the GM's fear, and this is just like threat from 2D20 games. If the GM's fear pool is low, you know that the worst abilities of the monsters aren't really going to be triggerable.
Yeah.
But if the fear pool is high,
he's gonna be using their basic.
You might be in for a world of pain.
This thing. Did you read the detonation? How much damage it does?
Yeah, 3d20 to all targets.
Well, that's if it dies.
Yeah, and they can make a reaction roll with agility 17 to take half damage.
That's a lot of damage. Yeah. But it's not because all that means is you're gonna take.
No, that's what I'm saying. You can never take more than 3.
Right.
So nothing can just kill you.
Yeah. I mean, this would suck, but it's not just gonna kill you.
I mean, obviously, if you had already taken 3 damage.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying, like 3d20s. I mean, get hit with an explosion sucks, but it's not like.
I mean, I'll give you another. Obviously, this is a tier 2 monster. If I threw this against a tier 1, level 1 person, it couldn't kill them.
Right.
But detonating, I mean,
Where do you see the tiers at?
In the bookmarks.
In the bookmark.
It also there's no XP in this. It looks like you
Oh yeah.
It's
figure out how to level up.
123. Page 123, it talks about when a party has accomplished something of a significance in a campaign, the GM may tell them that it's time to level up. So this is milestone. And then, but then it says...
does that really surprise you?
I mean, I wanted more PBTA things where like these series of things marketed.
It says, but most groups may play at least 3 sessions or more. In between each time they level up. Generally, characters begin their journey at level 1. When you level up, all members of your party will raise their level by play +1 and have the chance to
It doesn't
upgrade
surprise
their
me.
characters. Yep,
Those
milestone.
I guess because the issue there is just like
No, he's got to manage the story and all that crap.
Yeah, but also too, like it is still somewhat of a level-based game, and you don't want to, because in PBTA, like if you get an extra playbook move before somebody else, it's like not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But I think everybody just leveling up together. I mean, again, it's a narrative game. It's not my favorite personal, mechanic in the world, but I get where it uses form. And again, I'm thinking they're creating a game that they could just, play on their show.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like,
no, I get why they did it. It's just, it's not my favorite.
So I guess the real question is,
yeah,
did it answer the 3 questions that you posed at the beginning of the stream?
Well, I'll say this: it's way more crunchy than I thought it would be. Way more crunchy.
KLC does not sell out and shows Matt Mercer who's the boss by staying on past 10 p.m.
I'm pretty sure we already sold out because I just think our tip thing isn't.
Yeah, our tip thing didn't calculate that
because these guys aren't updating.
Yeah.
Stream elements.
When
the great outage.
When Coral tipped,
He broke it.
It broke it. He tipped too much money, and Stream Elements was like, "There's no way anybody tipped that much money." So,
a role playing channel. What is this?
Yeah. So anyways. Yeah.
So it really had 4 questions. One about the thumbnail, and then the 3 questions that you like to talk about.
Okay. So I'll say this: this is a lot more crunchier than I expected, and it's also a lot more narrative than I expected.
This is kind of what I expected in terms of narrative.
And so my fear is, I think the people who really like PBTA games aren't going to like the super crunchy kind of all the board gamey elements. A lot of people already.
You think it's going to be too much in the middle?
A lot of people already say that like some games are too fiddly. This game feels fiddly.
This game does feel like it has some fiddles.
It's got a lot of fiddle. But I also feel like a lot of the more trad RPG people, or more importantly, people who think they are trad RPG people, but they're not, but they think they are going to be like, narrative. Oh, you can't even die. Then what's the point of playing? And again, that's fine if you feel that way.
No initiative system.
No initiative system. Just make it up while
so
you
it's
go
like
along.
It's really in the middle of those 2 systems,
and it's
very in the middle.
And sometimes being in the middle can be a dangerous place.
I mean,
to be.
from what I see, I like it.
Yeah.
But I like to play, and I'm not even you guys. I've been growing more. I've been liking to play all these different systems lately. It's kind of been fun. So this is something that's very appealing. But you're right. I actually think the 5e crowd probably won't like it. And I think PBTA crowd will be like, no, I just want PBTA.
Right.
Maybe they will. I don't know. Maybe I'd be surprised. But also, Critical Role could just knock this out of the park and like have like another great show, and everyone be like, Daggerheart's great in their hands.
Yeah, I mean, Gonza, I completely agree with you. To me, this feels like Fabula Ultima, but with a more crunchy combat system, and kind of like 13th Age, if it was a little bit more like PBTA inspired than it is. So
Yeah,
I do think
I
it's
agree with that.
I think it's very much in that 13th Age FU range. Yeah, I agree. And I'm surprised that, well, maybe they just didn't know about Fabula Ultima. And so I think that, and I'll be honest with you. So I like board games.
Yes.
And I like narrative indie games. So for me, this seems on the surface like something I'd love. I love little fiddly glass beads, and I'm putting a D6 on my Slayer card, and I'm building up my Slayer dice, and then I'm going to cash those in. I love that.
Yes.
What I love though is that the game is still fiction first, not mechanics first. If it was just mechanics first, then it would feel like I'm literally just playing a board game.
Yeah, I would say if I have any large concerns about this game, it's going to be that play space.
Yep.
And how that transition's handled. Is it going to be like, is getting fiddly going to take me out of the fiction?
Just like Legend of the Five Rings.
Right. Or is it enough of both?
Yeah.
Where, it doesn't feel like complete bullshit.
Right.
Because Root and PBTA can feel like bullshit sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't really have anything that justifies this. I'm just going to mother may I and see if Derek had a good lunch today or not. Right.
I mean, to be fair, you just described old school D&D.
100%. And that's also one of the problems with old school D&D.
Correct.
Right. So it'd be interesting to see what that transition's like. Like if someone drops the activity tracker, does everyone just start looking at that and looking at their powers,
Right. And
versus
again,
looking at like you and each other,
right,
for the narrative.
And again, I think that this comes down. I think it's more of a conversation than people are used to having. Because when we're in combat, there's no conversation to be had. It's your turn, it's my turn, it's your turn, it's my turn. You know, so I think instead it's like you got this action tracker, and it's like, hey, you know, Kaz, you haven't gone. You want to get in on this? You know, and he's like, I think I know what I want to do now. You know, or you know, hey, Kaz, you want to get? You know, it's like, okay, well, we'll come back to you whenever. You know, it's you know, something like that. Yeah. So, Vin says it feels like a drink mixed in proportions I've never seen before. Color me intrigued. Yes, it's I don't know where I put this on the GNS. It's fairly low on the S.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a high G, it's a high N, but it's not really.
I mean, to be fair, the S is better in terms of armor. The S is better than D&D.
Well, yeah, that's just because armor's damage. But here's the interesting thing: like Legend of the Five Rings, we always talk about how it's a GNE game, right? Gamist, narrative, emulationist. Yeah. I don't feel like this game is trying to emulate anything.
No,
it doesn't have that overarching genre enforcement. Sure, it says it's a heroic game and it gives you some tools for that, but it doesn't have like the kind of like I win button that a lot of those, you know, emulationist games have, or where it basically goes, you are going to enforce this trope. That doesn't seem to be present. Instead, it just seems to be a highly gamist, narrativist game.
I mean, but the only thing you can say it's emulating would be other fancy role-playing games.
I guess, you know. I mean, Coral, I think, is right. It's trying to emulate a Critical Role campaign.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, maybe you're right, Coral. Maybe you're right. So, yeah, I would say it's very high G, very high N. But like very little of the S, you know. So I think the trad people will hate it.
Yep.
I think the people who think they're trad people,
I think a lot of people are going to hate this game.
I think so too. Or they're going to want to like it, and then they're going to play it and realize, just like when someone plays PBTA, they have no fucking clue what they're doing, and the game falls apart.
I think they're going to try to play it, and they're going to be like, "This isn't what I thought I wanted."
Right.
And then they're going to not.
I am interested.
But I think I'll like it.
I think they're going to piss off all the people on the surface who might have played this and all the different camps. Because of the unique combination of the elements they're adding here, which is a shame because I actually think this is like an amazingly well-designed game.
Yeah,
which
you're right. So it's a great game.
Yeah,
and everyone's gonna no one will play it.
Someone was talking about like 13th Age and Fabio Ultima. Honestly, again, we haven't played it, and this is just a first.
It's first look,
right.
But based just purely on paper and spending a couple hours with it, I think that on the surface, this game is better than both of those.
Better than 13th Age and Fabulous Ultima?
Yeah.
I mean, because I'm not going to make any rash decisions because we haven't finished it.
I get that's just a reaction. Right. This is an emotion. I'm just expressing what I feel based on what I read.
It is an emotional game. You were creating a player emotional experience.
Right. But I reserve the right to go back and go, I played the game where I've spent more time with the rules and this game sucks, right? But like on the surface, right? Like 13th Age felt in certain aspects. But by the way, all these games are great. So I'm not shitting on them. I'm just saying if I had to rank them. 13th Age felt very like flimsy in certain places. Like they just got tired of writing rules or didn't have any good ideas. Fabio Ultima, like as I mentioned before, it like brings a lot of things together, but sometimes it feels awkward of how it does it, right? Like all of a sudden we're in a fight and now there's a clock, right? And it didn't, just the way it was presented, it was like, oh, it's a clock in my face, right? Like a lot of different elements in FU, I feel like didn't come together wholly smooth. Not saying it was rough or bad, but it was a little jarring for me personally. And then also things just like, I mean, the combat is about as complicated as Final Fantasy 1, which was what they were going for, which is fine.
Right. Basically, you can
attack, spell, item, right?
I mean, to be fair, when you boil it down for a lot of these games, but you will certainly have a bag of tricks. But I mean, in Fabulous Ultima, you eventually have a bag of tricks. But,
in this game, there's potentially too much nuance going on, right? That's where the finicky come in.
The fiddliness,
right? So
I could see people.
I want to see how it feels at the table
because I mean, you're tracking armor boxes, HP boxes, stress boxes, hope points.
There's a lot.
You
know,
you got
your
your
cards,
like tokens, you got your dice,
your tokens,
a bunch of different dice because you got to use all the different dice.
Different dice, you got your tokens, and the GM has all this shit too, by the way. So the GM also spends stress.
There could be and that's why I said the trad people aren't going to like it because it's too story time mode,
right?
And I feel like the story time people are going to say
it's all fiddly.
It feels like a board. And they're going to go. People say people shit on Blades in the Dark. They say Blades in the Dark is too much like a board game. So if you think Blades in the Dark is too much like this is a very common complaint. If you think Blades in the Dark is very much a board game, this game for sure.
Is that because you're just ticking off
Well,
boxes.
because like, you know, you do the score and then it goes into the heat phase and then it goes into the payoff phase and then you have your downtime and there's 2 actions and you take your action. You're like, I'm playing a board game. Now, what I will say to Todd in chat's point is, you know, and this is how we're going to wrap up. You do have this interesting thing coming out. This is under development.
Yeah.
MCDM RPG is under development, and we have 5.X 6th edition one
Whatever they're calling
time
it.
D&D coming.
Oh, you know what the hell's in that?
And in my mind, these are all very different games.
Yes.
MCDM has carved out a strong niche.
Yes.
It is trying to
Which
be
is good.
It is trying to be 4E V2.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is trying to be the tactical super movie, you know,
Fantasy heroic.
heroic cinematic tactical combat.
Yeah.
5e 2024 is trying to make money.
Right. Correct. 5E is saying, how can we offend the
Right.
least number of people while
and
pleasing
sell more owlbear plushies.
even if we please no one.
Right.
And then sell subs
Yes.
and sell plushies.
Right.
And then this game
Again, another game that's in a very focused area. They know what they're trying to do.
This game is for people who like narrative. They love the fun indie games that have come out. They love Blades in the Dark. They love Powered by the Apocalypse. They just miss combat and minis.
Right. So it's interesting because this game
Yeah, kind
feels
of.
like
Which I like my minis.
a updated version of Dungeon World
Yes.
with the parts of the Forged in the Dark game that are fun without the weird parts like, oh, I'm like a gas thief in a dead city or whatever the fuck. Right?
And then a combat system.
And then
4E
a combat system that is kind of PBTA, kind of Gloomhaven,
Yeah, kind of Gloomhaven-y. Yeah.
you know, with 4E rolls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, which, you know.
Meaning, like, I feel like this game was like made for me.
I mean-
and I don't know why anyone would do that.
I mean, they did list like 16 games as like inspiration. We like most of those,
yeah,
if not
and
all
also
of those
Will
games.
Time. Yeah. So like, yeah, it's just like I would ask for this game. I can't imagine it being a popular choice.
Yeah.
You know.
Dungeon World in the Dark with 30. No, Dungeon World in the Dark 4th edition.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I mean, yeah, but yeah, there's a lot of like. I mean,
So yeah, I mean,
I kind of came into this annoyed that I had to do this tonight, so I
correct.
wasn't even in a good mood.
There's a 13th Age 2nd edition coming out too.
Really?
Yeah.
When is that coming out?
They were supposed to come out a while ago, but they had some family issues, and so they had to take some time off from development. But I guess they're back, you know, doing the thing.
I like Gonzo's point here.
But yes, I mean, agreed. You know, Cobalt Crest's Tale of the Valiant was a 5e copycat. So many things are 5e
Yeah.
copycats. And,
Give me something unique.
but again, Gonza, here's why. Because Critical Role can afford to fail.
right.
They don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
That, you know,
Well, one, they
they
will
are-
sell enough books
Oh, we're gonna buy it.
where they will cover this.
it doesn't even, I mean, like Matt Mercer could have been like, hey, guys, business expense.
Yeah.
I'm going to drop $5 million
Fuck, for all we know, he did.
and just as a personal pet project,
Yeah.
have some people divine us a game that I think would be awesome for us. And then someone's like, hey, Matt, you know, at some point, maybe you should just sell this game. And he goes, you think? I don't know. I just wanted to drop a couple million
Hell, if
into
anything,
R&D.
he might just be selling the game just to be like, oh yeah, you know the thing in the show, yeah, that's what this
Right,
is.
like I don't want to be selfish and just hold it on to myself, you
Right.
know. But like what I'm saying is Matt Mercer, Critical Role Enterprises or whatever, they have enough money. They could just go. We talked about before. They probably have a 3D modeler on set
100%.
who's like, while Matt is making up some monster, they're making the STL file and hitting like they have like a hyper printer.
Oh my
And like
gosh.
by the time you get back from the commercial break, the customized
have it
mini
ready.
is done. Yeah. And someone painted it. They're like airbrushing it.
I'm thinking more like it's got like some kind of VR,
Yeah,
like
that's a different kind of low prep.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's low prep for sure. But yeah, like I mean, Matt is they have that much money, you know.
Well, also if this fails, they'll just be like, "Oh, we play 5e still, and that's what we do."
Right, that's what I'm saying. It's,
Or 5.5,
they
whatever
can't
comes out.
lose
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
you
Well,
know?
I don't know how many people actually care that they're playing 5e or not.
Yeah.
Right.
They
Well,
just-
and a lot
they
of
just
people
watch
said
the
that. They
show.
said they're just
Yeah.
watching the show. They're not even really doing anything.
And
with it.
when I used to watch it, I was interested because I was going to be playing D&D.
Yeah.
But my wife would sometimes just watch it. She was like, "This is kind of entertaining,"
Right.
and she knew nothing. She just saw actors being actors.
To be fair,
and
I
actresses.
usually think it's like watching
Yeah.
Blue Drive, but
Yeah.
you know,
Which
but
is why it's popular.
I mean, if you're
why it's
going to
popular.
watch a live play, I guess it's slightly more engaging than most.
That's
but-
true.
because in her mind, they were just like actors and actresses talking about
And
a
they
story,
are.
which
Yeah.
is what she liked.
which is
about it.
fine. I just like to see mechanics too. But
I agree.
So
So did it?
That's-
So did it hit all? Did it hit your 3 pillars of a first look?
The game was very much about what it was about. It definitely had a lot of mechanics to support that.
Yeah.
And
It
the
definitely
game-
did that.
And with the way that you were awarded hope and the way that you were awarded the thing, and then it had a milestone-based experience, which is it's kind of a cop-out. But
It is a cop.
it's a cop-out. But I
Maybe
mean,
they'll get back to
technically,
that.
it does reward you for doing the cool heroic thing. You know,
Yes.
the players did the fun, brave, but they did the fun, brave, amazing thing, and the GM goes, "Cool, everyone gains a level," but not because you need to be the next level to be able to
I'm
advance.
just
in the
wondering how
AP.
that works if it's like sandboxy, because like this game.
No, I mean this to me.
They're gonna have to have like
we'll have to go to the
adventure
GM
paths.
section. No, no, it's
Oh.
more of like fronts.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's more like fronts. And
Okay.
and like I don't know if the GM advice gets into that, but like in my mind, it's that there are these threats that are moving, and now you have a game system where you don't have to worry about if you fucked up the CR balance and now your entire campaign crashes because the game has the sort of ability to bounce back from that.
There's
you
actually
know?
multiple steps of regulation.
Correct.
Even things like the damage, right? Like,
Right.
it's a dragon. You guys take 10d20 damage.
And it
Oh
can,
shit!
Right, and it can feel powerful.
Right. You're still
without-
taking 3.
but still take 3. You know, so. All right, well, if
that
you're-
was better than I thought.
Yeah,
I actually
yeah.
was.
I mean, again,
good.
we're not
I
doing
knew it was being
reviews.
narrative.
It's a first look.
Yeah,
But
I liked
obviously,
it.
I think you saw that there was some
Yeah.
excitement on our
When's this
end.
game
So.
even come out?
No clue. The beta came out today.
Okay.
I mean, they're talking about it right now. Or they're doing the. They're doing the. They already did a
Session 0.
No, they already did session 0.
Okay.
Right. So, you know,
They're doing the
100
the actual
100
adventure.
people already left to go watch the.
Yeah.
All right.
so-
We're done here, I guess.
So we're gonna wrap up here, but you know, go watch it if you want to watch it. Watch it on ×2 to get caught up.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to watch it live, although I would recommend not doing that and then just watching it at ×2 at speed, anyways. But yeah, I don't. You know, I'm sure people will be talking about this. I'm sure some of our patrons are going to be probably playing the playtest.
I mean, our
and
patrons
running,
seemed
and
excited
running
in the chat.
and running playtest games. So
They
you know,
already are scheduling them.
They're already scheduling.
One
them?
person was already. I think it was. Might have been Jackal.
Yeah.
Someone was already trying to get the games together.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't
if
know,
you would like to play,
Yeah.
consider joining the Patreon down below.
So for those of you who don't know, Knights of the Last Call has a Patreon. We have a private Discord community. We only have a couple hundred people, but basically the hallmark of us is we experiment, we try new games, we play new games, and I would say 75% or 80% of our patrons are GMs.
Yep.
So almost everybody in our game is running games for other GMs. So it is basically the complete polar opposite of almost every single other
Yeah, I've never seen
RPG
a
Discord.
community like it.
Jackal's running the game tomorrow.
And there you go. We've got one of our patrons, Jackal, who is running a community game tomorrow. So, and you'll probably see a couple more pop up. Now, I'm not trying to say like, oh, sign up so that you can play. And then, no, I'm saying you'll be part of a community that likes learning, that likes experimenting, that likes growing. And if you are interested in that, check us out, patreon.com/Knights-of-the-Last-Call. Again, shout out to Coral, to Vin, to we had a couple people here, Coral, Vin, Gonza. We had Wuppelstein and Jonas re-up. And you know, thank you to you, fine people, for your support. Obviously, that's what we are able to, how we're able to do this.
David wants us to stay on, but then Mystery Science Theater, their live stream.
MST. I would listen. I would never want to just. I would MST3K us.
Yes.
I would never want to just bag on somebody for playing the game that way. Although it would be kind of funny, but. But I think it would be. I mean, I've talked about it, but just doing it before, just for like our other games. But anyways, no, we'll save that for another day.
Absolutely.
So thank you everybody for coming and hanging out with us. Thanks for watching the game or watching us talk about the game. Getting a little bit excited about it. I'm much more excited about this game than I was the MCDM RPG.
100%, 1,000%.
Yeah, I don't know if it's 1,000, but it's several hundreds of percents.
Yeah. I mean, I
MCDM
would play
RPG.
this.
I got to admit, I bounced off of it pretty hard, and we all three of us kickstarted it. So
Well, and
he's
here's
got us.
Listen, like I'll come back when they update the rules.
Yeah,
but
but
like
it was
they
a
got
rough-
work to
Well,
do.
here's the thing with this kind of game. I'm excited to play with you guys because one, you'll probably be my GM, and this kind of game of a PBTA style game is going to flow really nicely at our table.
Yeah.
And MCDM, I could run and just have fun with my friends because that's more in my GM range.
I mean,
I'm not at the PBTA level
yeah,
yet.
a script to run that game.
I hear you.
But like this, it's kind of like
Finn.
what do I look at with the rules, right? A lot of times when I look at rules, it's more of, is this rule getting in the way? Is it going to fuck this up,
That's
right?
absolutely right.
And so I look at this game, I'm like, okay,
There's
it's not getting in the way that much.
There's very few rules here where I felt like this is going to be right.
That's a good point.
Mark Rosewater said, "Make the correct thing to do the fun thing."
Right.
And this feels like that is in that vein. And I also like that the choices that the game is asking you to make means that the decisions that you made before that aren't trivialized.
Right.
You have to make certain, Which am I going to get armor back, or do I get hit points back, or do I get stress back?
Lots of player choice, which is fun.
Always fun to make choice.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the hallmark of the game. When I complain about a board game, it's because like if I'm playing Settlers of Catan and nobody rolls on my numbers for 4 or 5 rounds of the dice, I don't get to take a turn because I don't have any resources. And it's cool that I'm playing the game and I get that it's random, but it's lame. I'm like, no, I sat down, I gave up my Friday night to play this game. I want to be able to make choices that impact the game.
It's not even about losing.
It's not even about losing.
You're just literally not playing.
I just want to get to play.
Yeah.
$2 super chat coming in. Last one from Vin. He says, already house ruled a 20 level version.
Good job, Vin.
Vin's like, no, I want it so that instead of picking 2 boxes, you only get fucking 1. I want to make it as horrible and grindy as possible. Vin, why not make it a 50 level version?
Yeah.
Make it a 99 level version.
1,000
Every
levels.
5 levels, you get a box.
I don't know why you need to go level 20 because you play 100 sessions just to get to level 5 anyway.
Yeah.
So by the time you get to level 10.
Right. Just make it that you get an advancement every 10 sessions. Boom, done. I mean, you could just set the advance. By the way, Sean saying East March just wrapped up. Going to definitely watch this all tonight. East March is our Dragonbane West Marches game that is run by a community member, Edril. It has about 14 or 15 players drop in and drop out. And that's just an example of the kind of community games that we're running, amongst many. There's like 5 or 6
I need to
Dragonbane
chat
games.
with Sean after the stream because they found out about stuff my character did previous session that I'm trying to figure out what happened to blood I let a witch take.
Oh, nice. Oh, in East March.
I let a witch take my blood in exchange for a love potion, and then we left, and I kind of wanted to get my blood back because I don't know what they were going to do with it.
Got it. And you haven't played, but they have.
Yeah.
So the story, the narrative has moved on. So.
Yeah.
Guess she did something with your blood.
I know.
Well, thank you, Trajan. I'm glad that you enjoyed tonight's stream. I'm glad you enjoyed our previous streams. Yeah, we do have an extensive library, by the way, if you're curious. Not really a lot of videos in the last couple of years.
You gotta look at the
we
live
mostly do
button.
live. So click on the live tab. YouTube hates us, and because we do live streams, it relegates us to the dump pile of history. But that's going to do it for us. We will be back on Thursday. I'm not 100% sure what we're going to be doing, but I'll be here. It'll just be me from my home studio, and usually we get a little bit more engaged. I've got access to my computer. I can do polls. I can talk with the chat.
Whiteboard.
Whiteboard.
You need to get that whiteboard emoji ready.
But we do have a couple of interesting things coming up. We did have a tip goal where we're going to be starting a series. I don't know how far we're going to get, but where we're going to go back and look at the old AD&D 2nd edition campaign settings. And we are going to dig in and see what they're about. And I'm not just talking about Forgotten Realms and Greyhawk and Planescape and Dark Sun. I'm talking about things like Birthright, Red Steel, Mystara, Council of Motherfucking Worms.
That was a good one. That's a good one.
That's a good setting. Like
I know
Council of
almost
Worms
none of these.
in Daggerheart. That would be awesome.
Those settings are interesting because
Yeah.
you're like, why is this in D&D? And it
Exactly.
makes sense because back then, well, there literally was no other
That
choice.
is exactly my point.
But yeah.
Anyways, at the time you were stuck not just with D&D, AD&D 2nd edition.
Yeah, that was it. That's all you got.
But that's one thing that we've got going up, and we're always talking about other games, and our patrons get to vote and help us decide and shape the thing. So thanks a lot to everyone for coming out tonight, and we'll see you next time on Knights of Last Call. Bye, everybody.